All right, welcome in. Midweek edition, NBA Deeper Dive. We've got this live before lock, 2 hours of content here on the Awesemo DFS platform for you to get ready for two games, two big games, two gigantic games that Adam can't wait to burst open and find multiple angles here for you. So we appreciate you all out there hanging with the two of us. Jordan, of course, is producing. Hit that thumbs up for Adam, please, as he's about to make you some money. And make sure you're subscribed here to the Odd Shopper channel as well. It's been a while, my friend, since you and I have sat down and done a show together. And I see and hear in the pre-show stuff that everything's good with you.
Yeah, it's been a while. I feel like we didn't. Yeah, it's been a long time. I don't even remember if we did basketball shows together this year. But no. Nice to have you back.
Well, good. And on a night in which I fully anticipate my basketball team to be humiliated nationally in front of everybody on TV and be the subject of conversation on the TNT shows and beyond. So we've got these two games to look at first and foremost. Anything big picture kind of jump out at you ahead of time before we kind of look at each one of these games and some themes that maybe pop out individually?
Nothing too much, I don't think. I mean, as far as pay-ups go, you have Luka basically by himself. Then you've got that next tier where it's like Harden, a little bit of a drop, Paul, a little bit of a drop, Booker. But I think just naturally a little bit more balanced slate because Luka is the only pay-up guy. It's not like you have, obviously you don't have Jokic anymore, but no Giannis playing today. So I think that it just naturally ends up being a little bit more balanced. And then also, at least right now, and I don't think we're expecting it, we don't have the same sort of quote unquote good value that we had yesterday. Granted, that good value ended up being horrible, but that's beside the point. I think from a roster building standpoint, there's not the same sort of value guys that really stand out to the extent that there were yesterday.
Okay, so we have that, and I think we have another theme here building, which is from Jansen White on the chat. Every time Adam has his hat backwards, I make money.
Hopefully that's the same for me. Last night sucked.
Did you have your hat front?
Yeah.
You didn't have the snapback on?
I had it forward yesterday.
All right. Was it snapback or fitted?
Snapback.
Okay. See, this is like going to be in some sort of baseball level metrics here where it's like what day of the week, what type of hat has snapback or fitted? Was it back? Was it front? So far we know backwards hat snapback equals make money.
Yeah. Hopefully keep that going.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm sure everybody else has paid attention to the track record of where your hat is or not. That's why I bring it up, because people understand everything and will definitely go, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm on a 10 hat streak here with Adam making some money. All right, let's look at the first game tonight. We'll bounce around here. I mentioned that as a fan, I can be completely honest and say that I'm totally concerned about what's going on. It's 208. It's definitely like the under, if anything, here, just because I don't know what Philadelphia continues to do without Joel Embiid. What do you think of the game first, so we can kind of look at some value plays and where you're looking at, again, just a two-team slate, pardon me.
I mean, I think Miami kicks the shit out of them.
Like it's not even close.
I don't know what Philadelphia is supposed to do at this point. Miami's so good defensively. Yep. They can make life difficult for Harden. Obviously guys like Maxey and Harris can potentially get hot and do some stuff. But then on the defensive end, what are they supposed to do with Bam Adebayo? Rivers seems intent on DeAndre Jordan being a part of this rotation for whatever reason. He's not the answer on Bam. He's not the answer offensively. If they go small, then fine. Like, I think that makes them better offensively, but Bam is still going to eat them alive inside. It's not like Bam is a center that's going to have to leave the floor if Philly goes small. So I just don't know what answers Philadelphia has at this point.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing about it is, yes, Philadelphia struggled mightily. Even some open shots they missed from three, but so did Miami. And when I look at that one area, Adam, I'm thinking, all right, who's got a better chance of bouncing back and shooting the lights out tonight? Is it a team that just recently kind of found that three-point identity since Harden got here? Or is it Miami, who has a couple of guys that definitely stand a better chance of just bouncing back because that's who they've been throughout the year? So I'm with you. I think this thing gets out of hand. I don't know how close it is before it gets out of hand, but at some point, maybe halfway or three-quarters of the way, this thing is just going to get out of hand.
Yeah, like I don't view it as a spot in DFS where I'm doing anything differently. I mean, it's only an 8-point spread and all of that, but I can't think of the way that Philadelphia comes through unless you just get some crazy, like, Tobias Harris career high in three-pointers or something.
Now, did you get sunburned, or is that just like the tint on your camera, because that seems to be the general conversation of chat here. And I don't want them to be distracted as you're dropping gems on them.
Oh no, I'm very sunburned.
Okay. It's not like you couldn't be hungover at 5:41 or wasted, like one of the two. So we assumed it was sunburn, right?
Yeah. No, Vegas sun got me.
Got you. All right. Yeah. From a DFS standpoint, let's look at Philly first. We'll bounce around team for team, of course. Yes, definitely going to be opportunities for Maxey, for James Harden, Tobias Harris out there first and foremost. I'm with you, though. In the backdrop, there is PJ Tucker, there's Bam. They're just guys that are making it so difficult for Philadelphia. So are you just targeting guys at the top, knowing that there's going to be volume and minutes available? Or do you start on Philadelphia, maybe with a guy like George Niang or somebody else that might be a sneaky sub-type option where they're still going to get some volume and shots, but maybe not as expensive?
I mean, I think the guys that look the best from Philly are still the guys towards the top. Harden at 9,600, Harris at 7,700, Maxey at 7,100. You know these guys are going to play a lot of minutes. You know they're going to be heavily involved. Miami did a pretty good job of lowering Harden's usage rate last game. He was only at 26.9%. That's similar to what we saw them doing with Trae Young in the Atlanta series, where they were just doing a good job of attacking him early, getting the ball out of his hands. As a result, last game, Harris actually had a 30.5% usage rate. Maxey was at 26.5%. That's another reason why I think if Philadelphia does find a way to win this game, it's going to be because Maxey or Harris do something unexpected, or I think that's the most likely way, is you just get hot shooting from those guys. So I still think you get enough minutes, assuming this game's competitive, and that all three of those guys are involved enough in one way or the other, where they look like solid plays at their price point. Although it is still the difficult matchup against Miami. The rest of this team, though, becomes really, really tough to feel good about for various reasons. Like Danny Green at 4,400. Minutes wise, fine, probably playing around 30 minutes, but it's Danny Green. He's just not a very good point per minute guy. You mentioned Niang, who, if Philadelphia were to go small for extended periods of time, then a $3,700 Niang is likely to be a pretty good value. The issue is that we don't know if they're going to do that. Doc Rivers, at least vocally, is insisting that DeAndre Jordan is a part of this rotation. So you have the minutes to worry about, and then you also have the fact that Niang's not a great point per minute guy. So even if Niang plays like 22 minutes, there's no guarantee he gives you any sort of score that you want to have. But there is at least a path to him to have success, because if, for example, let's say Philadelphia starts DeAndre Jordan, he plays 6 minutes, never comes back in the first half, and then they start Paul Reed in the second half or something, then there's probably a lot of minutes there for Niang. But that's not, that scenario certainly doesn't have to happen. Paul Reed, kind of the opposite, or kind of similar to Niang, I guess, but not as far as the point per minute production goes, because Paul Reed, whenever he's on the floor, he's going to get it done from a fantasy standpoint. It's just a matter of, one, how much does Doc Rivers want to play him? And two, how many minutes can he play before he fouls out of this game? Yep. So if you get 16 minutes from Paul Reed at 4,600, as good as he is from a fantasy standpoint, he's pretty unlikely to give you anything you have to have. But if you were able to avoid foul trouble and get, say, 22, 23 minutes, he starts to probably become one of the best values on the slate.
Yeah, that's the thing, where you start to look at these guys at the bottom, and I don't even know what you do with Harden outside. Or let's look at that from an ownership percentage. Do you find yourself being under the field with Harden? Because you mentioned Maxey and Harris. Definitely those guys are going to have to fuel any run that keeps Philadelphia in there. But you said it, and pardon me if I misphrase what you said initially, but Philadelphia is going to get their ass kicked. So, right? Now, how does that factor in with Harden, who's going to be out there even if they're down 20?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't built lineups yet, but with the way things look right now, ownership-wise, I would expect, just knowing how my lineup building process goes, I would expect that I get to a little bit less Harden and a little bit more Harris and Maxey. Looking at the boom bust tool right now, we have Harden at 42% ownership, 37% chance of being optimal, whereas we have Harris with a 32% chance of being optimal at 31% ownership, Maxey 27% chance of being optimal at 27% ownership. Those guys are both cheaper in terms of salary, and they're projected to be a little bit under-owned, whereas Harden's a little bit over-owned. So I think that both of those factors, at least the way things look right now, probably push me a little bit more towards Maxey and Harris and a little bit away from Harden.
All right, real quick, super chat here. My filler arc, way too early, but Adam, last man in DFS, Finney Smith or Bridges on DK? Throwing you on the spot right there because we were just in Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, probably Finney Smith. I think it's close. They're kind of similar plays where neither one's a great point per minute guy, and they're both likely to play a lot. But I think I'd give the slight edge to Finney Smith.
And then Goody, what the hell is Doc Rivers' problem with Reed? I think that Doc Rivers is, first off, I don't like Doc Rivers as a coach. So let me just get that out of there. I think I can't wait for this guy to be gone coaching the basketball team that I root for. But Adam, I think he has it in the back of his head that DeAndre Jordan, which makes sense to some extent, DeAndre Jordan is the best guy to set a hard pick and create spacing from PJ Tucker because Tucker is glued on Harden over Paul Reed. And he's going to die on this hill no matter what, because there are people from fans to media that keep pressing Doc. So that's what's going to translate into Paul Reed probably getting less minutes from a DFS standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's also that Rivers is obsessed with Paul Reed's foul rate. And
yeah, which is fair though, right? I mean, the guy is...
I mean, yes and no, but if you're not going to play the guy because you're afraid he's going to pick up fouls, aren't you just doing the same exact thing? Like you're just fouling him out. You're saying, I think Paul Reed's going to foul out, so I'm not putting him in the game.
Right. It's problematic, I think, on both ends. And I don't want to even sound remotely close to defending that guy because he's a moron. So I think both sides ultimately get screwed because you're right. DeAndre Jordan is not going to get extended look, and Paul Reed's going to get a minimal amount of time out there and therefore get in foul trouble.
Yeah, like I don't know why. I don't know why the DeAndre Jordan minutes need to exist. Give Paul Reed minutes. When he gets in foul trouble, bring in Millsap, then go small. DeAndre Jordan's not going to contribute anything here.
No, it's pretty bad, man. All right, so that's pretty much the team right now. And I doubt that if you build a $150, I mean, are you even getting to DeAndre Jordan if you're putting up 150 lineups tonight?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's not anything I'm going to feel good about because the way I kind of thought about it with Lofty this morning is even if DeAndre Jordan's around a fantasy point per minute guy since he joined Philadelphia. If you look at the last game, he played 17 minutes. So, let's call it 17 fantasy points at 3,900. Fine, whatever. You're not excited about that. It's not really helping you do anything. But with somebody like Jordan, I just have such a difficult time thinking that there is much of a chance that he plays well and plays his way into more minutes. It seems like either he gets 17 to 18 minutes because Doc Rivers continues to be very stubborn, or he plays his way into less minutes. Where somebody with like Reed, on average, you're probably talking 14 to 16 minutes, but it's very, very possible that if he can avoid fouls, he just plays his way into more minutes and ends up being great. I just have a really hard time seeing that with DeAndre Jordan because what does he possibly do that makes Doc Rivers look and say, oh, yeah, we need to keep him out there even more? He's not going to help defensively. He's not going to help on offense. So I just have a really, really difficult time wanting to get there because not that there's 100% chance that he plays like 18 or fewer minutes, but it just feels like that's kind of a cap and that there's a lot of times that he plays like 8 or 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I get it. So Tex, oh my God, do we have to talk about DeAndre Jordan? But he is popping up 7% on the Boom tool. He's catching nearly 20% ownership. He's popping up nearly 18% in our optimal lineup for DK. So it's not like I'm just dragging somebody who's barely existed on our metrics. There are at least something there that I wanted to get your thoughts on. I think, honestly, we have scraped the bottom of the barrel here with Philadelphia, right? Is there anybody else?
I mean, you mentioned Niang as like a dart throw type guy. As much as I would like Paul Millsap to be a thing at 3K in place of Jordan, I have no I'm not getting there. If it happens, I'll just be annoyed that I didn't play him, but I'm not playing him.
No, it's sneaky for Niang if you can get some 3-point props up there too, because the guy took 7. He was over. I get it. He had a couple of open shots, but that's the thing. Like he's out there on the floor, just all the people out there looking at Odd Shopper placing a bet or two. Just keep that in the back of your mind. This dude might take 6 or 7 threes, may miss them all, but at least you're betting volume with it. All right, let's move to the other side here. And again, if you're just hanging with us, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. We have to tell you about what's going on. I saw this earlier. This is fantastic. Our Luka promo here. So what's going on is $7 for a full week. That's 7 days. Everything is 77. All right. So you're going to get $7 Awesemo plus 7 days of Awesemo plus platinum. That's 77% off the weekly price. All right. So it's amazing. Click when you check out, the promo code is Luka, like Doncic, right? Luka. Although I've heard a bunch of people call him different things, like Mad Dog was calling him something completely ridiculous this morning. Luka is the code to use, and then you could just jump right in. I mentioned the Boom Bust tool, the ownership, everything that we have that we use here as far as our metrics. You're going to get that right away, and you could jump in. So again, on checkout, you see it here. Jordan has it up. Luka, $29.95 to $7, 7 days. All new users, just go ahead. All right, my friend. Let's move on to, yes, Glenn Rivers does need to be fish slapped. I like that. Can we bring that back? The fish slap?
Are you talking about the meme?
The meme, but isn't that from the original fish slap?
I have no idea what that
is.
Okay.
Well, then that's fine. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. We've got the heat to talk about. Jordan's already looking at me like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Heat here. So this is where I do think, and again, I know that they shot poorly from three, but this is where I do think there's going to be some bounce back. Again, for a team that won by double digit, it's kind of hard to say, well, how much do you want them to bounce back? But let's start in the middle, because I think that just seems to be so obvious. Is it too obvious? Like, how does Bam not smash? I have 12 plus boards tonight. Like, how does he not smash tonight against this Sixers team?
I have no idea. We saw it last game. He played 33 and a half minutes, 51 DraftKings points. Not that you want to just look at that and say, yeah, it's going to happen again, but I just don't know what answer Philadelphia has for him, no matter what they do. He's athletic enough to stay out there if they go small. He can switch on pick and roll. He's great defensively. It's not like he's a liability, and he's going to just destroy the boards if they do go small. So it's kind of, like if the more minutes DeAndre Jordan plays, the fewer rebounds Bam probably gets, but he probably also just scores every time down the floor. So who really cares? So it's just, in a variety of ways, I don't know what Philadelphia is supposed to do to stop Bam. And I think at $8,000, he looks like one of the better plays on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be a guy that you're getting to a ton, especially now. You can work him on Fanduel with the 4-5 there, but just as an option for DK Fanduel across the board, are you going to be around where the field is? I mean, 35% still at that center spot on DK. I don't know how much you're going to get to anybody else, or if you need to get to many other people, unless, of course, they're cost-saving options like JaVale McGee or maybe even DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bam's still going a little bit under-owned at that 35%. DeAndre Ayton at a similar price point in a good spot as well, but I give a slight edge to Bam. But both of those guys, I think, look good as far as mid-range centers go. But after that, it's not like there's a lot here. DeAndre Jordan, if you have to use him for value, whatever, but it's not anything that I'm advocating for. Dallas doesn't really have a center. You have a cheap Dwight Powell who kind of is, from a fantasy standpoint, their version of DeAndre Jordan tonight. JaVale McGee, like you said, punt play if you need it. But it's not like this is a slate where you have four teams that all have good starting centers. You have two, and one of them, here in Bam is just in a ridiculously good spot.
So I love Strus tonight from like a betting standpoint and just a real life bounce back type standpoint against this team. I don't know if that correlates so much for you from a DFS point of view, but 8 shots, 7 of them threes. I do think that it's not Philadelphia's defense, just did not have the best night shooting. So I'm willing to give him some benefit and say he's going to take 7 to maybe 9 threes again tonight, with the expectation that some of them go down, and that maybe you can get a little more from a guy who should be out there, 30, 35 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I think he looks fine. I think that the pricing on Strus, on Vincent, on Tucker, it's pretty much just like where it should be. On DraftKings, Strus comes in at $4,900. He's played 5 games this postseason with Jimmy Butler. In those games, he's averaged 29 minutes per game, 0.75 DraftKings points per minute, 18.9% usage rate. If this game's competitive down to the end, you could certainly get to, low to mid 30s from him, pick up a few extra minutes on that average. But he's still almost $5K. So I think he's kind of just priced for that role. And I think the same thing goes for $4,700 Vincent and $4,300 Tucker. They're likely to get enough minutes where they project reasonably well at those salaries, but I wouldn't say underpriced. I think it's kind of just they are where they should be. And typically when that happens, for me, it's that I don't end up, unless one is getting a lot less ownership than the others, which right now isn't really the case. Strus is at 33%, Tucker's at 26%, Vincent's at 20%. Or 19 rather.
Yeah.
I typically end up kind of just spreading out my exposures to those guys, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if one of them just happens to step up and have a big game. But I don't have any way of saying which one it's going to be, because I think more or less they're basically the same play.
What about Oladipo? 4,500 is going to be such a cheap option. There is the concern, right, just about volume, but I did see the chat buzzing about him earlier as well. Just another option here, especially if this thing maybe gets a little long for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think he's okay in tournaments. I wouldn't be too confident in it. He played about 27 minutes last game, but the thing you have to keep in mind is that Jimmy Butler never came back in the fourth quarter. Bam subbed out with 4 minutes and 36 seconds to go. I think if this game had been competitive, you're probably getting like 22 minutes from Oladipo. He also only had a 16% usage rate, which is notable just because, you know, the any minutes he's playing alongside Jimmy Butler, it's going to cut into his usage. Bam Adebayo is going to cut into his usage a bit. But the counter argument to that is that Oladipo is projected for 21% ownership, so it's not like he's getting a crazy amount. And just because he, on average, is going to have a little bit lower usage rate with Jimmy Butler active, and on average is going to play, let's say, 20 to 22 minutes, that doesn't mean that he can't play 26 minutes like he did last game for one reason or another, or he can't get hot and have increased usage. At 4,500, there is still a ceiling there. It's just that I think it's important to realize from a medium projection standpoint, he does have some things working against him, and that you shouldn't just be looking at last game and saying like, oh yeah, he's playing 27 minutes again, because I would be very, very surprised if he were in a closing lineup alongside Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, speaking of Butler here, 9K, right, that we have on DK, and just thinking with the reduced ownership compared to a bunch of guys up top, including a couple who are in that similar price range, do you think that it's just recency bias as far as struggling last game, or is it just a pricing that you think might be a deterrent for why he wouldn't be higher owned? And I guess I would follow up if that's an opportunity at just below 28% to attack Butler's ownership.
Yeah, I think so. So I think there's a couple things that probably pull his ownership down. One is that Adebayo is $1,000 less. Two is that Devin Booker is $800 less. And then you also have some other guys mixed in there as well. So I think that kind of just pulls the ownership down a little bit. But I do think it's a pretty good spot to attack, because it's not even that you can't play him and Adebayo together, but there's certainly still going to be some games where Butler just takes over, and we know he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. We know that he's going to be very involved offensively, and we know he's going to play a lot of minutes. So far this postseason, he's averaged 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. He has about a 30% usage rate, a 23.5% assist percentage. He's played 36 minutes per game. I still think he looks good at 9K, and I do think that ownership's a little bit low. Like I had said before, though, I think it's a little bit low on Bam too. So I'm not saying I want to just start like jamming Jimmy Butler in instead of Bam. I just really like both guys. The one potential issue you do run into is how does Philadelphia keep this game close if you get a big game from Butler and Bam at the same time? But on the other hand, it is only a 2-game slate, so opportunity cost isn't quite as high. And if you were to get, let's say, 50 from Bam, 45 from Butler, or 50 from Butler, 45 from Bam, you're still probably okay.
How much does that change, if at all? Because I feel like on a 2-game slate, this probably shouldn't be that big of a difference maker. He bumps up to 10-3 on Fanduel, and the ownership is pretty similar to what we have projected on DK. You're spending up a little bit, but Bam's price is staying somewhat constant. So does that even impact you on a 2-game slate? Maybe if there's 5, 6, 7 games, that price range could impact what you're doing. But I mean, does it even matter when you mentioned we only have 2 games, especially the likelihood that Butler does bounce back?
Yeah, it doesn't matter too much just because the opportunity cost for each roster spot is lower. When you talk about 6, 7, 8 game slates, you get more into you really need those like top tier performances from multiple guys, but there only being 2 games. If your guy goes for 45 points, he's probably one of the highest scorers on the slate regardless, even if it's not exactly what you would want from his salary.
So there are 2 guys, or basically Butler was one. Tyler Hero, really the last guy in this top area here from Miami to target. 6K on DKs, catching about 35%. So in that higher range, if you will, at the 3-4, 2-3, pardon me, where we have them. Oh, that's Fanduel that I had the number on. Sorry. But just looking at Hero 68, of course, on DK, about 21.5% that we have projected here. But again, I don't know what the Sixers do to kind of counter when he's out there and the minutes with the rotations, especially later in the game. So I don't know if he's going to blow up like he did, but he's going to have an opportunity or two throughout that game, especially probably in the even quarters, to punish the Sixers on their back end rotations.
Yeah, I think that Hero is somewhat interesting in tournaments because I think I think he's correctly priced, if not a little bit overpriced. I think that he's kind of similar to Strus, Vincent, Tucker in that there's not a lot of, from a medium projection standpoint, there's not a lot of, wiggle room there, but he's still capable of getting hot. And if Butler and Bam were to, for one reason or another, disappoint here, there's a very good chance that it means Tyler Hero stepped up and had a big game. So I'm not prioritizing him. I'm not building around him. But if you do need a lower owned guy to still give you a ceiling and help you round out your lineup, Hero's coming in at 21% compared to 27 for Butler, 35 for Bam. So it's more so in individual lineups. I don't mind getting to some Hero, but I don't think he's somebody that I end up, really prioritizing overall.
All right, reminder here, we've got over, 1,400, 1,450 over that now as we just bump up. So we don't ask much, right? Hit that thumbs up button, please. That really does a lot for us, and make sure you're subscribed here. I mean, we're giving you everything. 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Just sign up, that link below at PrizePicks, and you're going to make some money immediately. Put that to use with Awesemo Plus Platinum. We told you about the Luka promo as well. So we've got a lot of things here for you that we continue to just discount here for you, either on site or elsewhere, like at PrizePicks. And again, just hit the thumbs up button, really. And if we get to 400, Adam can afford some suntan lotion. Is that right? I was going to say sun. What do you call it? Suntan or sunburn lotion?
Sunscreen.
Sunscreen. Okay. Have you ever heard it referred to as sunburn lotion?
No, I hadn't heard
Never.
that one. Suntan lotion, for sure.
Suntan lotion, but
yeah, sunblock.
Sunblock. Okay.
Yeah.
We need a poll. Which of the three? Forget my suggestion because neither one of you have heard it. So it's either sunscreen, sunblock, or suntan lotion, right?
Yeah.
Those are the three options. You can only choose one now, and you're going.
I usually go sunscreen is usually what I go to.
Okay. Look at that. Now, from there, we go to Dallas, Phoenix. Anything else that we forgot? I mean, my goodness, there are only 2 games here overall. So between these 2 teams, I feel like we've hit a bunch at the bottom of this barrel. Is there anything else in this game that we should be able to look at? Caleb Martin?
Yeah, I'll say the only other guy that I think is even really in the rotation is Caleb Martin. He played 21 minutes last game, but he, like Oladipo, did pick up those 4 minutes or so at the end of the game. He's 3,300, so it's not like it's difficult to imagine a path to where he gets you 20 fantasy points or whatever, and it is useful, but it's certainly not the most likely outcome, and it's certainly not anything I'm building around. It's more so just if I have a lineup where I love everything in it, and it's like, oh, well, I have $3,300 at Ford, and I have to play Caleb Martin in that particular lineup, then fine. But yeah, there's no I think Caleb Martin's like the sneaky angle to this slate or something like that. It's just in 150 lineups, if you get a little bit, fine. I certainly wouldn't expect to have him in any of my smaller field stuff.
Are you ever, I guess playoffs would be tough to do, but I am just interested in how you would approach this in a game like tonight, where the expectation is at some point Philadelphia is just not going to be able to keep up. And look, it's circumstantial, right? If Joel Embiid were playing, then this conversation probably doesn't come up. But when you are building 150, when you are building a bunch, is there a small part of you that does build maybe 1 or 2 blowout lineups? Or is it just hard because of everything being so tight in the postseason?
No, because the thing is, when you talk about blowout lineups, typically it's not adding guys that look good. Like when you take Miami for an example here, if you can just look at the last game and look at what happened in that game. Like, yeah, you got a couple extra minutes for Oladipo, you got a couple extra minutes for Caleb Martin, but it wasn't anything crazy. Like, you don't want to be going into this saying, oh, this guy that like Yurtseven played the last 5 minutes of the game. You don't want to go into this saying like, oh, well, if they really blow them out and nobody plays in the fourth quarter, then Yurtseven plays 12 minutes. It's like, who really cares? That's such a low probability outcome for it to work out that way. Now I'm sure it will, but and you're just, all that stuff kind of factored into projections too. Like and this game only has an 8-point spread, so I'm not overly concerned about it. But let's say this game had a 16-point spread. You're taking a minute or a couple minutes off of the main guys and giving them to the backups. So you don't want to, on top of that, then be saying like, oh, well, what if it blows out? Because you've already accounted for that. And then the third thing is, if you're like, in theory, if you're talking about making a blowout lineup, you would be saying guys like Bam and Butler and those guys play less. But like, especially when you're on the winning team, you're typically producing better on a per minute basis than you normally would. Like Bam, for example, last game, sure, he lost 4.5 minutes to blowout. And sometimes you'll see people be like, oh, I got burned because Bam didn't play the last 4.5 minutes of the game. You got 51 fantasy points in 33 minutes. So a big reason that he didn't play the last 4.5 minutes was because he crushed the first 33. So it's kind of that trade-off. You don't want to just be saying like, oh, well, I think Miami's going to score so many points that Philadelphia can't keep up. So I'm not going to play the guys. They're going to score the points for 3 quarters. And I'm going to try and guess who gets random fourth quarter minutes. Like it just ends up, for a variety of reasons, I think being a pretty big mistake.
All right, before we hit this Suns-Mavs game, saw John Bryant with a super chat here and asking top 3 players to build around for you on DK. So I don't know if you want to give out all your secrets here, if you want to tier it as far as like maybe your top spend up, mid-range, or bottom, or just whoever the hell you're looking at from a top 3 standpoint.
Yeah, I don't think it's a secret. Luka, Bam, Booker.
Right, exactly right. The field is definitely not buying it if you went elsewhere.
Right.
Like it'd be hard for you to push Max Strus as a guy that you're building around tonight.
Right, exactly. Like if you want to argue for Jimmy Butler in there somewhere, sure. If you wanted to make some case for James Harden, I guess that would be okay. But like, yeah, I mean, I think it's to me, Luka, Booker, and Bam are the 3 guys that I really look at today, and I'm just like, I don't know how the hell I get away from them.
Yep, absolutely. Now we're being told suntan lotion is different than sunblock and sunscreen. Is that somebody that's like
is suntan lotion for tanning?
Yeah, but so is sunblock. What do you think?
No, sunblock is to prevent you from getting sun.
I don't know.
Well, like, I don't know if you can.
So suntan lotion, like, here's the thing. Suntan lotion, you're telling me that's like the stuff, the Hawaiian, what's that stuff? Hawaiian Tropics, where it's like you rub it on you to get dark burns. The fairer the skin, the more that you rub on, I guess, right?
Right, but I think like tanning lotion is to like help you get tan, whereas like sunblock, like I have weird tan lines on my arm because I sprayed sunblock on it and I didn't cover the whole thing, so I just have spots where I got sun and spots where I didn't.
Right. So I guess for me, and this is how the game of semantics works, is I would call suntan lotion what sunblock and sunscreen is, and I would call tanning lotion that stuff that you purposely get tan with. So that's
right.
How
I call it tanning lotion too.
Okay. See, I knew I wasn't alone in being crazy. There we go. All right. I'm looking at your face like you were going to say something, but that's it. Are you reading this? This is from BBC News. That's what I thought you were reading. I'm sorry. Jordan put it up. All right. You want to go to the next game?
Yeah.
All right. Are you doing something like you need for MLB right now? Or are you reading the sun?
No. I was trying to read. Once I realized I was on the screen, I was trying to read it.
Okay, because I kept waiting for you to say something.
Congratulations to you for being on a show with me and being called pale. I did not know that.
Oh, from Larry C?
I did not know that having your face up next to mine could ever make somebody be called pale.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm definitely pale in comparison to others, but I'm looking at the side by side right now, and you look a little like you look burnt though. You look like
like right now I'm purple, but
right. All right, man. Let's hit this Dallas Phoenix game. Let's just get Luka. This is the easy one here because the entire field is on him. So 45% of the field, Adam, is getting to Luka, 11-4 on DK. Where are you to the field? Let's start there with how you are to the field, at least with Doncic when you're building.
So the thing that's going to, I think, really determine how much Luka I'm able to get to is what the value, like what the bottom ends of my lineups end up looking like, because I don't love a lot of the cheap value options on this slate, but I do think that there are enough where even though it's difficult to pinpoint one, like we just talked about with Miami, where, you know, like gun to my head, I couldn't tell you who has the best game out of Strus, Tucker, and Gabe Vincent or Oladipo. But I think there's a good chance that like one of them outperforms their salary. That's kind of what you're going to see from other teams as well, where there's not one guy that really stands out, but there's just enough guys that are sub 5K where one or two of them probably do well. And assuming that's the case, it's going to mean that Luka's in a lot of the top scoring lineups, assuming that he does what he's supposed to, just because, you know, he very clearly projects as the top scorer on the slate. Right now, we still have him going a little bit under owned, 47% ownership projection on DraftKings, 49% chance of being optimal. And that optimal percentage in a case like this, I think is really important because it helps to reiterate what I was just saying, where even though I wouldn't look at this slate and say, oh, there's a ton of good value, it makes it easy to get to Luka, there's just enough guys where that optimal percentage is telling you that in the sims that Alex ran, even though Luka is relatively expensive and there's not a lot of clear-cut good value, he still is showing up in the top scoring lineup almost 50% of the time, which means that those kind of questionable value options are still getting there, often enough.
Right. So race fan, by the way, in the super chat, any love for DeAndre Jordan tonight? Thanks, boys. We talked about him extensively in the first half. Make sure you hit that notification bell so that you're not showing up and thinking, man, did I not get, no, we'll circle back before we get out of here. But
short answer is no.
Yes.
Any love? No. Will he end up in a lineup here or there? Probably.
Right.
But yeah, as far as any love, no, there's not.
Okay, so with Luka now in the backdrop, as you open that up, and nothing changes right from site to site, of course, it's just the approach with Doncic. Where else? I mean, Kleber's definitely going to get some love here because of the 4K, because he seemed to be one of the lone guys around Luka in that first game. But I don't know how much you trust. Also, so much of the field, even in this 2-game slate, is getting to him. So maybe there's another cheaper option that you can counter with to gain some leverage. But outside of Luka, we talked about DFS earlier and at 5,600. So maybe it's Kleber, maybe it's a DFS that you can get to, maybe even Bullock on the outside. We'll talk about Brunson as well, kind of at that higher price.
Yeah, I think that Dallas is kind of just similar to Miami as far as these value guys go, where I don't love any of them, but I do think there's enough minutes to go around where one of them probably has a good game. You're most likely going to get around 40 minutes from Finney Smith. You're probably going to get around 40 from Bullock, as long as he's able to avoid foul trouble. Neither of those guys are good point per minute producers, but they're cheap enough where if they just play 40 minutes, they're likely to at least be okay at that price. And then if they happen to shoot well from 3 or pick up an extra steal or two, they can still be good. Maxey, similar. We saw in the last game, Dallas give Maxey like 23, 24 minutes. He's averaged about 24 minutes per game in the games that he's played with Luka, Dinwiddie, and Brunson this year. The interesting thing from the last game was that Kleber still barely played in the fourth quarter. And for most of the fourth quarter, Dallas went really small with all 3 of the guards plus Finney Smith and Bullock. I think you could see that again tonight because Dallas is sort of like Philadelphia in this matchup where no matter what they do, they don't have an answer for DeAndre Ayton. So it's almost like you're just better to say, all right, screw it. Ayton's going to get his. Let's try and get, as many playmakers and as much offense out there as we can. There's no real reason to be just throwing Dwight Powell out there for the sake of having a big when DeAndre Ayton's just probably going to eat him alive anyway. And the same for Maxey. Like Maxey can certainly stretch the floor, but you can also probably just have, you still have better shooting if you just don't go to a big. So I would expect on average, you're getting around 24, 25 minutes from Maxey, but that's not to say that if he's shooting well, he can't get in there and close and pick up an extra few minutes, get up to 28 to 30. So I do think he's a good value at 4K. It's just that even he is not like this slam dunk where you're shocked if he doesn't produce. He looks pretty good. He's getting the ownership. The optimal percentage is in line with that ownership. So I just think he's a decent play. I think that Powell is in tournaments somewhat interesting because you do get so much ownership going to Kleber, and you're not likely to get much Kleber alongside Powell. They played alongside each other for a few minutes last game, but most likely, if Powell were to go from 15 to 20 to 22 minutes, you would probably be getting Kleber in foul trouble or his minutes scaled back for one reason or another. So I'm not confident at all in Powell, but I do think it's kind of an interesting spot to look at where, Powell's only getting 16% ownership, Kleber's getting 36, and there's certainly some negative correlation there.
Not buying the DFS birthday narrative tonight?
Oh, it's his birthday too?
It is, yeah. 2 guys tonight on slate with birthdays, but Dorian Finney-Smith, absolutely, May 4th, 29 years. That doesn't do anything for you. You don't think
I never know how to handle birthdays. Like, did they go out and get drunk last night and they're going to be dead today, or are they going out tonight after the game?
That's a good question. I saw the chat was prematurely accusing James Harden of being hungover for tonight's game.
I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Is that right? You just automatically assume that one?
Anytime James Harden's in Miami, I assume he's playing hungover.
Right. Here's the thing, and it's no knock. It's been a long time since I've been in Phoenix, but is there enough to do where you could go out and go crazy out there, or are you bringing the party to the hotel?
I've never done the nightlife thing in Phoenix because whenever I'm in Phoenix, I'm visiting my grandmother. I'm pretty sure there's stuff to do though.
All right, well, we'll find out really fast how sluggish DFS looks by all means. What about Brunson though? Because it's a little bit more of a pay up option, but there is also the concept, right? That if in fact Luka does struggle and Dallas is putting up some points, most likely it's going to fall on Brunson.
So to clarify one thing, because somebody in chat got confused, Maxi Kleba is 4K, not Tyrese Maxey.
Correct. Yes.
For the rest of Dallas, I think Brunson is an okay mid-range option. I would certainly still rather try and find the money for somebody like Bam for 1,100 more, or even take a shot on the Philly guys, Maxey or Harris. But you are likely to get around 36 minutes from Brunson as long as he's able to avoid foul trouble. He had some foul issues at the during the second quarter last game. He's around the point, a 1 fantasy point per minute guy in the games he's played with Luka and Dinwiddie this year. It's just, I think, a pretty fair price tag. And then the same thing for Dinwiddie. 0.9 fantasy points per minute, probably playing around 30 minutes. At 5,300, he doesn't stand out as a great option, but he's also not getting that much ownership here.
Anybody else you want to cover on this? I mean, I don't know how deep you're getting. You mentioned Powell, so I don't know how deep we can get here with Dallas before we kind of flip over to Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, Dwight Powell is about as deep as you can get here. I don't see a way to get to like Josh Green or Davis Bertans.
Yeah, that would be it, right? And again, that goes back to the question about building that blowout-esque lineup, even if it's the team that's getting blown out. But it goes back to what you were saying earlier about why you would more likely stay away from that with the Sixers Heat game. So it's the same concept, I assume, across the board.
Yeah, and just, I guess, like if you look at the last game for Dallas to kind of illustrate that, Davis Bertans played 8.5 minutes in the first half. He didn't play at all in the second half. Let's say that Bertans is in their garbage lineup, which I have no idea if he even is or not. But just for the sake of this conversation, let's say he is. And so this game gets completely out of hand, and Davis Bertans gets to play the last 8 minutes of this game. Congratulations, you got 16 minutes of Davis Bertans.
Not worth it. All right, hit that thumbs up button, please, as we move on to Phoenix here. And subscribe if you haven't already. My goodness here. All right, so let's start with the Suns. Booker is catching the majority of projected ownership we have on DK. And there's also Ayton, who is the only real other pay-up option, if you will, at that center spot on DK outside of Bam. So those two, let's start with Booker. 38+% of the field is getting to him. Do you find yourself maybe a little over that?
Yeah, I think that he's still probably a little bit under-owned there. We have him with a 41% chance of being optimal, 38.5% projected ownership. He's just wildly underpriced. I don't know how you possibly land on an $8,200 price tag for Devin Booker. Had about a 31% usage rate last game, played about 38 minutes. You expect his usage to be between 30 and 32% in most games. With Chris Paul active, the assist percentage comes down a bit, but still probably should be north of 20%. He's just wildly underpriced. And if this game, you could certainly see more minutes too. He only played 38 last game. There's no guarantee he doesn't hit 40 or 42 here.
By the way, that poll looks like it's over. Sunscreen was the overwhelming victor in that.
That was my answer, right?
I thought you were blocked. No, Jordan was blocked. Yeah, you were screen. Okay. Yeah. Look, that's a good sign. The backwards hat with the snapback, the fact that you won the poll, I think we all are riding with some positive Adam Scherer momentum tonight, right?
Yeah, hopefully winning the sunscreen poll is not the highlight of my night.
No, I don't think so. By all means, that would be something, man. I look forward to a tweet at like 3:30 in the morning from you, which is just like, fuck, the only thing I won tonight was sunscreen. All right, so live before lock, by the way, coming your way in 11 minutes. Greg and Eric have you coming up, leading up to lock. So any questions you have, they'll answer as we get glowing. Real quick, I did see a super chat here from Goody. How do you feel about a pivot from Booker, as we talked about, to Chris Paul based on ownership, DK GPP?
So within one individual lineup, I think that's fine in the sense that, like, let's say you have a bunch of other popular players. You have a lot of the other higher owned guys on the slate. And then you have the money where, without changing anything, you can just play Chris Paul instead of Devin Booker. I think that's fine, just because in terms of raw ownership, he's going to get like half the ownership. But it's not a spot that I'm like aggressively targeting and going in saying like everybody's playing Devin Booker, I'm going to play Chris Paul, because I think that Booker is still going under-owned, and I don't really think that Paul is. I think it's a situation where it's not like Paul and Booker project about the same and Paul's just a little bit more. Booker projects a couple of points better than Paul. So you're really giving up salary and money to get there. And especially in larger field tournaments, Paul's likely to still get enough ownership where you're not really getting a big edge by going there. I think it actually is a more interesting conversation if you're playing small field, whether it's high stakes, especially high stakes because the ownership gets really concentrated, but smaller fields in general where people are playing a lot closer to the optimal lineup and they're not spreading out as much, because then you could conceivably get, like, for example, in high stakes tonight, I haven't run anything for it yet, but just off the top of my head, I would expect you're getting something like 60+% Devin Booker ownership and like 10% Chris Paul ownership, as opposed to 40 and 20.
All right. So more so the higher the stakes, basically, the better the play here. If you're building $150 on just regular tournaments, it's probably not going to be to more of your advantage.
Yeah, and even in higher stakes, like, I don't anticipate that I make that move. It's just that I think the move becomes the move starts to get better the smaller the field, and in particular the higher the stakes you're playing, just because you're going to get a bigger ownership gap between Booker and Paul. With large field, the way we have it projected right now, I still think even at the higher ownership, Booker's a better play than Paul.
We talked about Bridges earlier with a super chat, Adam, about Bridges kind of versus DFS. There's a 400 point difference there as far as cost is concerned, but the field is getting to a lot of Bridges, about 30% there, 6K. So I don't know if that's an appealing mid-range option for you. And again, you don't have a ton of them tonight.
Yeah, he's just sort of there. I don't think I end up in that price range a ton. When I do, you got 42 minutes. He's fine. But I'm not going out of my way to get there. He's kind of similar. Like, he is similar to Finney Smith and Bullock. It's not like I'm going to look at lineups and say like, oh man, I don't have Bridges, or I don't have Finney Smith, or I don't have Bullock. I need to get them in. But at the same time, if I like everything else around them and they're just kind of the last piece in, that's how I view them. And I think that's more than fine.
All right. So from there, look, as far as Paul is concerned, outside of the pivot that we had, that super chat question, just building and just getting to Paul that at 8,700, and knowing that, again, we've got guys who are anywhere from 8 to 10 to maybe even 20% higher from an ownership standpoint. So if you are looking at building with or kind of around Paul tonight at 8,700, there's a decent amount of leverage that you can gain on the field.
Yeah, I think that Paul is relatively low owned, and at 8,700 in a vacuum, he's not bad. He's kind of, I think that's about where he should be, probably a little bit higher. The problem with Paul, and the reason that right now, for example, we only have him in the optimal lineup 16% of the time, is that not only does he have Devin Booker that's cheaper than him, you have Bam Adebayo that's cheaper. Jimmy Butler is only $300 more. DeAndre Ayton is less expensive on this team. You have the Philly guys that are $1,000 less in Maxi's case, or $1,600 less in Harris's case. Harden's only $900 more. It's not just that Paul has to have a good game; it's that he needs to beat all of those guys, and then also not have the fact that he's more expensive than a lot of them come back to bite you. So that's kind of the issue with Paul, and why I think it's still difficult to get there, even though he is clearly a good player.
Anybody else as we start to get a little bit Jay Crowder we should hit too, I guess, because he's catching more than Chris Paul. Just from a betting standpoint, I've turned my back on this man. So I don't know how that correlates for you in the DFS world tonight with Crowder. 4,800, I imagine that's just correlated to what you've been getting from him, which is probably not much.
Yeah, Crowder is Strus, is Vincent, is Tucker, is Cameron Johnson. I think all these guys are basically just in that same bucket. And like I said before, I think guys from that bucket do succeed tonight. And that's why I think like Luka gets in the optimal lineup so often. But, again, if you just say, hey, pick one of Crowder, Strus, Tucker, Cameron Johnson, whatever, your guess is as good as mine. Like, they're all going to project within a point or two of each other.
All right, Cam, I'm interested in here with what you can get from him. 4,600 at the 3-4 spot, just over 18% we have projected on DK. But some of this, I guess, is dependent on how you see him tonight and what you really can expect from him. But from an option as far as cost and leverage in the field on a 2-game slate, if you think Cam Johnson can do something tonight, this might be a good opportunity to attack.
Yeah, but I think he's, again, just similar to those other guys. You're probably getting 24, 25 minutes. He is a capable offensive player, but when you have Devin Booker on your team, when you have DeAndre Ayton, who actually led the team in usage last game, I believe, sorry, was second to Devin Booker at 30.5%. There's only so much to go around. Cameron Johnson did have a 25.5% usage rate. I think he's a good value option. I don't think he's markedly different than the other guys priced around him, though.
And I imagine that's the same. Maybe, I mean, is there a cutoff line where it's like, all right, that no longer applies, where a guy like Cam Payne or even Landry Shamet, right, just no longer in that mid-range group of everybody's the same, and now you're just getting into low-cost options that you're either staying away from or just sliding in if you need to fill something at the end?
So I don't think I can get to Shamet. He's not a great point per minute guy, and he only played about 9 minutes last game. I do have interest in the extremely cheap price tags on Cameron Payne and JaVale McGee because they're such good point per minute players. Payne's around a fantasy point per minute guy, played 19 minutes last game. If he gets in that range again tonight, he's likely to outperform a $3,400 price tag. Might not give you a great raw score, but would still look decent. And then JaVale McGee at 3,200, when you have somebody that produces 1.25 fantasy points per minute, and they're in the rotation, they should basically never be $3,200 because on average, you should probably get, 10, 12 minutes, something like that from McGee here, with the rest going to Ayton. But if anything happens to Ayton, or if for just any reason McGee gets to 14 or 15 minutes instead of 10 or 12, you're typically going to have a big game. Last game you got 14 from McGee. He only scored 12.75 DraftKings points. But normally you're talking about him getting up around, 17, 18 DraftKings points if he plays 14 minutes. So at 3,200, I think he's just a little bit underpriced. And it's not to say there isn't risk there. It's not to say I think he's going to play a lot of minutes. But in tournaments, the ceiling for somebody that produces produces fantasy points at the rate that McGee does is pretty solid.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? At the bottom, if you can really maximize that value there for a guy with that cost level who's also not catching really any ownership at all. So that would be a real 16% on a field with 2 games where guys are double, triple that, by all means. This was an interesting one for Yahoo Cash games here, and it's basically across the board for cash. But Sir Dave asked Maxi or Hero in Yahoo Cash, but I think you can apply that across the board. Maxi, we're saying Tyrese Maxi here.
Yeah, I'll say assuming that they're like the same price and you're just asking for the last guy in. My initial thought is Tyrese Maxey, just because I think he probably plays like 8 to 10 minutes more than Hero does. Looking at Alex's projections right now, he has Hero. Yeah, he has Maxey several points ahead of Hero too. So it's Maxey for me.
Anything else, man, tonight?
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on DeAndre Ayton.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. I thought we did. I apologize.
He's I think a very good play here. I saw somebody in chat say you can't play Ayton. He doesn't score enough. The guy had a 30.5% usage rate last game, and Dallas just doesn't have the interior presence to do anything to slow him down. He only played 33 minutes, but you could conceivably get several minutes more, if they wanted to. Maybe, I think on average you're probably getting 34-ish, but it's not like Ayton can't physically play 36 plus minutes. He's well over a fantasy point per minute guy. And, again, this is just a matchup that I think he should have a lot of success inside. So I still prefer Bam for $400 more, but I do think Ayton is in a very good spot here. And we saw them, really go to him a lot in the last game with that 30.5% usage rate.
Yeah, what would be the concern outside of, Bam's on the slate there, but there's nobody else that you would, even as you mentioned, McGee or Powell, like there's nobody else you're going to consistently get to. He's the only other option by default, and that doesn't even include what you just laid out, which are good reasons to get to him.
Yeah, and like even when you compare across positions, like if you just stay in that price range where you have $7,600 Ayton, you have $7,700 Harris is 7,700, Maxey is 7,100, or vice versa, whatever. Brunson 6,900. Like I would just rather have Ayton over all of those guys.
All right, we appreciate everybody hanging. Again, one more time for us, at least for Adam. My goodness, hit that thumbs up button at Ship My Money DFS. Make sure you tag him, as we love to see it. All your big winnings and the Awesemo Hall of Fame as well. Appreciate that. I'm at Shander Show. Thanks to Jordan for producing. Live Before Lock is coming your way now, so you have another hour with Eric and Greg. Any more questions or ball busting or any other polls that you want to get out there on the chat, go ahead. And how long do you think before that burn clears up for you?
Week.
A week? Is that normal for you? About a week?
Yeah, it's already started to peel, so I assume it'll be good in a week.
There you go. You can't stop. I'm the same way. And I have no hair, so if I'm peeling, I'm just getting everything.
Right, yeah.
Awesome. Always a pleasure, brother. Have a great night, guys.
So many tabs open today. Because of the baseball.
Tab soda. Check out the boom bust too. Check out the top stacks too.
Not out of count, Jordan.
This is boom bust too. Going to the top stacks too.
Yeah. What is going on, guys? It is the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock show. I am hosting, and I'm joined by Eric Lindquist and, of course, Jordan Klein, the producer, who so far hasn't messed anything up. We've got our eye on him, though, keeping tabs, because we never know what's going to happen. You know, it could be tech failures. It could be audio issues, camera issues. You could have to take a shit. There's a whole variety of things that could go wrong when Jordan's here hosting. But Eric, you and I, we've got another 2 games to talk about. We're going to be here for an hour and a half breaking down these 2 games. And then, of course, sweating after lock, what's happening in the games. Going to be talking about a little bit of PrizePicks and an odd shopper. And of course, we have to be prepared for everything that Glenn Rivers throws at us today. How you feeling?
Oh, Glenn Rivers, I'm ready to go. I can't believe you think DeAndre Jordan sucks. That's what he sounds like to me. It's fine.
Yeah, that was not one of your stronger impressions. And Eric has some really good impressions. That was
Thank you.
Yeah, that one wasn't as much one of them. That didn't sound like the Glenn Rivers that I know and hate.
Well, I can't really help myself. It's going to be more like this. Is it here? Did I find it?
No, you just sound
Paul
like
Reed is going to not play today, even though he should play every minute he possibly can.
No, you just sound like you're forgetting to breathe while you're talking, or like you have emphysema.
Oh, well, neither of those seem good. So let's not do either of those ever again. That's fair.
I wonder, have you ever heard Glenn talk when he was younger? Did he have that same voice, or is this the thing that happened from yelling a lot?
Yeah, when he was 3, he was like, I want to go play with my friends. And just he couldn't get it out. Couldn't figure it out. It's like Jordan Klein when he's streaming.
He might have just started smoking when he was 3. Who knows? Who's to say? But I do kind of want to start by just asking about the 76ers situation. It was something you and I spent a whole lot of time on Monday because, I mean, we had to. We were guessing what the starting lineup was going to be. Then we got the starting lineup came out. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. Then the results of the game happened. The results weren't really exactly what we wanted. But we've seen from through the media is constantly grilled Rivers in terms of what are you going to do with your starting center position. He goes, I don't care what you guys think. I think DeAndre Jordan is good. He's our starting center. But what are we doing with the minutes here?
So this just comes down to foul trouble for me. If you watch the game, I don't know how anybody, and I'm sure neither of us, but we both agree DeAndre Jordan starting is absurd, right? Or just playing.
Yes. Yeah.
Why are you smiling? What's going on? What did I miss?
Just some stuff that was being thrown into the YouTube chat. First, the one that really made me laugh was the super chat we got from Call Me Touch CMT. Said he sounds like SpongeBob begging for water, which I know exactly the episode he's referencing, and that's actually exactly what he sounded like, which really made me laugh.
That's pretty funny. But anyway, Paul Reed couldn't keep his hands to himself. That is pretty much why you saw him capped off in terms of minutes. He played 13. I think you and I are both very upset that it's something where he basically doubled up fantasy production in the number of minutes he played. That's never going to be ideal, but he's always been a good fantasy point per minute producer. I've got him for more minutes, obviously going across today. How many minutes do you have Paul Reed for?
18.
Okay, I have him for 20. And part of it comes down to just optimism, where I think if he stays out of foul trouble, that there's an opportunity for 24. I think you could just see him split the center minutes down in a competitive game right down the middle. I still don't think Paul Millsap is even going to be part of this rotation, which is so weird to me. But, you know, such is life. DeAndre Jordan is going to play more minutes than he should. I think that's just, if he plays 5 minutes, if he plays a minute, it's more minutes than he should play. But there was that opportunity. And I said it before on this show when we talked about this game before, George Niang, Tobias Harris, they could play 4 or 5 in some iteration. We saw that lineup actually exist in the world in that first quarter, absent Paul Reed, absent DeAndre Jordan. So, yeah, it was a decent lineup there. They went on a good run. They went on an 11-0 run with that unit on the floor from the 4:32 to the 2-minute mark of that first quarter. Kind of weird that they might not try to go small in some spots here with Bam Adebayo off the floor if Edmond comes on. Some opportunities where that lineup could have some utility, and maybe you don't see 24 and 24 in terms of DeAndre Jordan and Paul Reed, but something tells me DeAndre Jordan going to just play a fewer number of minutes than the 17 we saw. And I think Paul Reed, barring foul trouble, which is a huge Jaren Jackson Jr. like caveat, I think he's going to play 20 plus.
I don't have it projected that way. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that get center minutes. I think Paul Reed plays center minutes. I think DeAndre Jordan plays center minutes. I think Thibault plays center minutes. I think Millsap plays center minutes, and Tobias Harris plays center minutes.
So you've got Millsap joining the fray here.
Well, he played minutes last game also.
Yeah. I mean, he played like for a hot second. He didn't really have Millsap. We saw him play that first stint, 5.5 minutes. Played 5.5 minutes in the rotation. So I guess, yeah, if you think that that's going to be something where that can cut in some minutes away from Paul Reed. I mean, I think the Millsap thing had more to do with Paul Reed coming out and getting, 3 fouls right out of the gate in that first, or 2 fouls in the first rotation, comes back out on the floor there, gets 1 more there before the half. I mean, it was just a shit show in that regard. So I think Paul Reed is going to see more minutes. If he hadn't had 2 fouls, do you think Paul Millsap plays that 5.5 minute rotation still?
Yeah, probably at some point. I think what they were doing was just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And clearly Paul Reed was the best of all those guys, but it clearly doesn't matter because we still have DeAndre Jordan starting tonight. So yeah, I don't think he plays a lot. I gave him 6 minutes, but
okay.
The reason that matters is that 6 minutes that otherwise would have gone to Paul Reed and DeAndre Jordan. So I'm not projecting either of them to play 20 minutes. One thing, I think they're going to try a lot of different looks. And then, the last game didn't go particularly well for them either. And a lot of that was because DeAndre Jordan started at center. but they're going back to it again. So I think they do the same thing. I think they just throw a lot of different looks at center and just see what happens with these guys. So I have some exposure to Jordan. I have exposure to Reed. I didn't end up getting to Millsap because once again, I only have him projected for 6 minutes, but I'm underweight to all of them. We've got DeAndre Jordan and Paul Reed both projected for around 20% ownership, and those numbers are going to be underweight too.
Yep, I'm agreeing with you.
All right, so let's talk about some of the guards there. We had to get that Sixers talk out of the way early, and now watch the starting lineup come out and it not be DeAndre Jordan somehow, and then we just have to change everything like last time. But for right now, I think we could feel pretty good that is what the starting lineup is going to be. Actually, first we have some super chats here, then we'll start going position by position. We have from John Bryant. I'm playing Doncic, Booker, and Adebayo. I need the top 3 pay down options on DK. Thank you. You guys rock. Thank you for the super chat.
Aww.
And let's see the top 3 pay down options. So what are we going to consider pay down? Anybody?
Sub 6K sounds about right. I mean, you could run into. What?
I don't think that's. I'm going to assume he means like sub.
Oh, well, my
4K.
favorite, my sub 5K guy is going to be Maxi Kleber again. I talked about it. I'm very upset because if we got the Paul Reed piece, I think you and I put together the rest of the slate the other night pretty fantastically well. Maxi Kleber was my big stand. I said he was going to play a lot more than Powell. I don't like Powell in this series. I don't like Powell, period, because of what we saw towards the end of that last series. Luka flat out didn't want Powell on the floor once he missed that alley-oop. It immediately had repercussions. First game here in this game 1. You would think you would want Powell's body down low against Ayton, but only 16 minutes shows otherwise. Kleber, he opens up that floor. He knocked down open shots, 5 for 8. I don't expect 5 for 8 from 3 again, but I think 4K has so much utility for him. So just want to go right back to the well in that regard. Unfortunately, now a lot of the field is there. He's going to be 30% projection in that regard. I find that to be a little less palatable than last time out when he was sub 20%, but I'm still going to roster quite a bit of it. And then I think you got to talk about these Miami Heat pieces, Max Strus, PJ Tucker. I think both of them have quite a bit of utility as sub 5K pieces. Strus did not work out, and somehow he still got a massive inflation from 4,700 to 4,900. That tag has come up from 4,100, which is where it was at in the middle of that Atlanta series, and he's been starting the entire time. He can knock down open shots. He has some utility in that regard, but I'm probably, as sick as it sounds, going to prefer just $600 savings at PJ Tucker. Allows for me to get all the way up to Luka and a lot more of my lineups on DK. So I will go in that order. Kleber 1, Tucker 2, Strus 3.
Yeah, so I just really quickly plugged in while you were talking. I was plugging in these 3 players into the DraftKings just to see what the average salary is. So he said he's playing Luka, Booker, and Adebayo. So that means for the other 5 spots, he only has $4,480 as the remaining salary. That's pretty tough for this particular slate because there's not that many cheap guys I like.
No.
I don't have issues with any of the guys you pointed out, but I think you're kind of handicapping yourself if you're forcing those 3 guys. And would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And I think Kleber is the only one that I actually like to say that there's somebody that I'm actually going to play near what their percentage is. I'm underweight to the other 2. I'm right around the field on Maxi Kleber as it stands right now in my typical 80 lineups for this slate. So I'm looking at some other guys in that mid 5-6K range. That's how come I was hoping you were going to maybe lean it towards that direction. But you're really only looking to dip down to roster like 1 or 2 of those guys in a lineup. I think to have all 3 go nuts and have it worked out optimally is going to be very difficult on this kind of a slate.
Yeah, and once again, the issue is less so with those players because I like them all individually. It's just that there isn't that much good value on DK today, and they're all really expensive. So I would say the answers that Eric gave as far as value options, I don't have issues with, but I do think you're kind of hamstringing your lineups by forcing those guys in. Next, super chat from our guy, Michael McKinney. His usual FanDuel question. He wants to know the 5 must play guys on FanDuel. So usually he's asking us for 2 pay up options and 3 value plays over on FanDuel. So as far as pay up options go, I think this is really clear, cut and dry. James Harden, Luka Doncic, Bam Adebayo.
Yep, those are the 3.
And another thing also to add, what I just said about DraftKings does not apply to FanDuel. The pricing on FanDuel, infinitely softer than the
Yep.
pricing on DraftKings. It is more than easy enough to fit a bunch of these guys in. And a lot of that has to do with, well, for one, James Harden is $9K over on FanDuel, which is a very, very cheap price point. I know a lot of people are going to look at what happened last game and not want to play Harden, particularly in a cash game scenario. I just don't really care at this salary. I think he's a must play in cash games on FanDuel. Do you agree with those three as the pay up options? And then what are you going to go with as the value guys?
Yeah. Even if you have a debilitated James Harden compared to what he was with Houston, compared to what he was with Brooklyn, this is impossible. Trae Young obviously had a ton of issues. Oh, crap. Tyler Naquin and Nick Senzel scratched. Hi, Freddie Peralta. How you doing? James Harden, I feel like 56% for him on FanDuel. That's definitely something that you're just playing it in cash games and you don't even have to think about it twice. I mean, the ownership is dictated by it. If you feel as though there's some kind of an issue with him in tournaments, make that stand. But in cash games, you're playing him regardless of any of your opinions on what you saw in game one, what you saw with the Heat defense against Trae Young, or in this series against James Harden. You're just playing him. So yeah, you're playing Harden, Bam, Luka. That's clear cut. I think what's fun for cash game purposes is because I didn't play cash on FanDuel, but I mean, Max Strus, is Victor Oladipo somebody that's viable in that kind of a setting, considering he's 3,900 and opens up the entire rest of the board, even if you don't necessarily like him for tournament purposes?
Yeah. So I have only, I've built lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings. I'm only playing on DraftKings today, but in the build I did for FanDuel, I was getting to a lot of Victor Oladipo and I don't have him projected especially highly. It's just, he's so cheap. He's $3,900 and I don't think he's going to play the same minutes he played last game. His playing time really got buoyed by garbage time last time out. Mm-hmm. But even with that said, if you're going to get 22, 23, 24 minutes out of Victor Oladipo, you're looking at somewhere around 20 fantasy points. And at a 3,900 price tag, that's more than playable. He's way too cheap.
Yep, I'm with you. So we're on the same page in that regard. I really think he has a ton of utility and is very, very useful for that slate, specifically over on FanDuel. 3,900. I'm not playing a lot over there. Definitely focusing on DK primarily for MLB and NBA today. But if I were playing a lot more on FanDuel, he's a guy that I would have to take a deeper look into. But I think for cash game purposes, you just kind of play him at 3,900. I think just building out my team right now as we're talking for cash games there, I think it's pretty clear cut that you're going to roster him.
All right, we have some more super. By the way, somebody threw something into YouTube chat, which I thought was really funny. Which was somebody said that they thought Charles Bassey was going to play minutes today. Don't put it past Glenn Rivers. Just throw more shit into the.
Just throw 5 minutes on it for Bassey.
It really does sound like the SpongeBob dehydrated. I enjoy it though. It's also growing on me. I think we need more Glenn Rivers today.
Some people thought it was decent enough, by the way. Chat had a different opinion than you and Jordan Klein. It's almost like you two are naturally inclined to be against me.
No, there was a lot of people. No, we got a super chat where somebody said that you sounded like SpongeBob was dehydrated.
I don't know. It was funny. It made you laugh. You're having a better day because of it. So maybe stop complaining. How about that? I'm
not complaining. I'm enjoying the impression. It just doesn't sound like Glenn Rivers. It sounds like somebody else.
I don't care. I'm going to just roster whoever I want to roster. I'm going to play whoever I want at center. I'm going to play me at center. I don't care.
Glenn Blender Rivers right there. A lot.
Oh, come on. I'm not trying to run that kind of an impression.
you just overloaded your vocal cords with too many things at once there.
The variance. People don't understand the projection.
And then
I like him, by the way.
I
like always say that at the end of the impression because I enjoy the impression, but also he seems like he's a good dude.
The key to that also is that when you do the Glenn Rivers impression, you'd never mention that you like Rivers at any point, which I also think is important.
Trash. Just trash. We're gonna move on.
Super chat from Jeff Williams. So which of Bam, Booker, and Luka would you leave off of a single entry high dollar GPP? If you don't play Luka, would you play Harden? All right, so let me look at my DK lineups right now. And if I just sort
this slate is different than previous slates for me on DK because the clear-cut priority for me in terms of studs is Devin Booker. Devin Booker at 8,200. We're on the guard spot, so I'm okay going there. Like Devin Booker is going to make it so difficult for me to get it to as much Luka as I want to on DK. I think on FanDuel, he's just automatic. You're playing him, not even thinking twice about it. And I just think Bam and Devin Booker are such clear-cut priorities for me that Harden and Doncic are just kind of affected as a result of it. I'm not sure what you think. I still think you can play 2 or maybe even 3 of them in a number of lineups, but we've talked about how thin the value is down there. I really, really am just going to be jamming a lot of Booker Adebayo today.
So for me, and I'm just checking what I have. So my highest projected lineup has Luka and Bam in it. And I mean, what you said before that this slate's different because you prioritize Booker. I mean, I prioritized Booker the last slate too, so it's not that much different for me. I'm playing a lot of the same guys that I did the last slate, to be honest. There's some differences, but
I mean, I was a little over the field on Booker, but I did not jam him the way you did, and I definitely wish I had.
I mean, I'm still playing a lot of Booker, but I'm just saying my highest projected lineup, because he asked us about single entry, and my highest projected has oh, never mind. I was looking wrong. So my highest projected actually is Luka and Booker, and it doesn't have Adebayo or Harden. My second highest projected lineup has Doncic and Adebayo in it. So those would be my 2 priorities, Booker and Luka. If you want to say Booker and Adebayo for the salary savings, that's fine also. But I'm getting fairly similar exposure to Booker, Luka, and Adebayo. I have a little bit less Harden just on DK because his price has come up a bit.
That's fair. Jordan Klein, I hate you. Don't talk to me the rest of the show. We have how long? Just over an hour. Okay, cool. Hour and 4 minutes. Just don't talk to me. Just put a poll out there saying, does Eric sound like Glenn Rivers? The joke is that it doesn't sound like him to a certain extent, but it still sounds like him. Stop being a dick. You're unnecessarily mean all the time to me. It's all right. I'm going to go to the HR we don't have. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. I'm HR now, by the way.
Oh, great. Thanks, boss.
Yes. Report him to me. What did he do to upset you?
Normal Jordan Klein things. It's fine.
All right. Yeah, I'll scold him later on in the day.
Yeah, and you will.
So also now looking through, let's suss out the question here. So the question Jeff Williams actually asked, so which one of Bam, Booker, and Luka would you leave off a single entry? Right now, I'd lean towards leaving Bam off. And if you don't play Luka, would you play Harden? I prefer Luka to Harden. Are we on the same page with that?
I prefer Luka to Harden on DraftKings. Yes, I do.
Okay. So let's hit on the rest of the guards now. And I know you mentioned the priority, or at least how the Heat guys are going to be priorities for you. We talked about Victor Oladipo on Fanduel, but are you playing him at all on DraftKings where he's 4,500? I think he's a much higher priority play on Fanduel. DK, I don't have him projected well. I have him projected for 20 fantasy points, but he still makes it into some lineups because of how thin the value is on this slate. Are you running into that as well?
Yeah, Oladipo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to. 4,500. It's just a guy that if you look through the rotations last time out, you and I didn't know what to make of him, and neither we just were not that enthusiastic. You had Caleb Martin. I didn't know how he was going to fit into the mix. We've had a number of injuries for this team, and it's constantly just been throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks in terms of those rotational guys on the back end. And Oladipo was like a DNP CD for a majority of the entire spring. So it's hard to just see one game absent Jimmy Butler and then immediately insert Jimmy Butler back into the equation at an inflated tag for a Victor Oladipo and feel like there's any kind of something to suss out of there. But now we saw 27 minutes. He played the entire fourth. But if you remove those 12 minutes and just say, oh, that was all because of blowout, that's still 15 minutes, which is above average on a slate like this when you're talking about sub 5K guys. I think you have to look at him as a fantasy point per minute producer. I think you have to look at him as a guy that just gives you another opportunity at a shooting guard position, point guard, shooting guard eligibility, can fit into some more lineups. Do I like Reggie Bullock and the opportunity to play a guy for more minutes? Yeah, I do. But he's $700 more. Spencer Dinwiddie's $800 more. I mean, this guy gives you a little bit of savings at the guard position, which is really hard to come by.
Yeah, and you mentioned somebody that I want to bring up there because I think he's going a little bit overlooked on this slate, and that is Reggie Bullock. I think people have forgotten how many minutes this guy has been playing in the playoffs because he's had some weird situations in his last few games. So we had Reggie Bullock last game, he got an early foul trouble, ends up fouling out. So he plays 33 minutes because he fouled out. The game before he played 44 minutes, the game before he played 31, but he also got ejected in that game. In the games where we are seeing no foul issues, no weird ejections for Reggie Bullock, he played 44 minutes in the closeout game against the Utah Jazz. Then the game before getting ejected, he played 46, before that 44 minutes, before that 45, before that 44. I am projecting Reggie Bullock for 44 minutes today, and I am well overweight to the field of the 20% ownership he's picking up on DraftKings, and I also think he's worth being overweight to on FanDuel. It's the same thing we talked about before, where there are not that many cheapish guys that are presenting really good value, and I value the floor in this spot. I value the floor much more than I would on most other slates, and I think there's a lot of floor in Reggie Bullock because, once again, as long as this game isn't a blowout, as long as there aren't foul issues, I think he plays mid-40s minutes. What are you doing with him?
I like him. I just said that he's somebody that I want to get to, but he's expensive comparatively to some of these 4K guys that we're trying to force into lineups. And he's not a good fantasy point per minute guy, but the thing that he does offer is, that he's going to be a willing participant to shoot it in the corners. He's out there to space the floor for Luka. That's why he's out there playing 40 plus minutes. That's why you're going to see Kleba be a part of this rotation more so than Dwight Powell. It has nothing to do with the defensive end. It has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with how offensively they're going to try to attack the Suns and try to create that high variance type of stuff that you talked about last time where, yeah, the Mavericks are the worst team. They're 6-point dogs in this spot, but you got to knock down threes. And Reggie Bullock has shown that he can be a guy to do that. He's going to play 40 minutes, 42 minutes here in this spot at least. And I feel like that's just something that is so hard to undervalue. He will not project out well, even at that number, considering his tag, but so hard not to have interest today.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. Super chat from my filler arc. Oh, by the way, I have a message to you from Jordan Klein via Carlos Manzo. Jordan loves you. He appreciates your friendship. We have a super chat.
Tell Jordan Klein not to talk to me.
All right, Jordan Klein. Eric says not to talk to him.
I'm blocked.
Carlos, you're gonna have to respond in the YouTube chat, and then we'll get some more indirect quotes here. My filler arc super chat.
Seriously?
What happened? What happened? I've just got some super chats to read. Are you that upset we got super chats? It seems like an overreaction. Last man in utility, Ayton or Booker or Bam. That's Booker for me.
It's Booker for me too. I love Booker today.
All right. I don't know. What are you upset about?
He just did the Tinkerquist crap again. He's back on that shit. He's just a child. He's a petulant child. Eric's mad at me. I'm going to piss him off even more.
But remember, he said from Carlos Manzo, he values your friendship.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words from Carlos Manzo specifically. So...
Super chat from Rosso Music, DK Tiers, Spencer, I assume that means Dinwiddie, Crowder, Strus, Vincent, or Bullock. Who do I have projected the best? Spencer Dinwiddie, Jay Crowder, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, or Reggie Bullock. Off the top of my head, I think that's Bullock, but let me check.
I have Max Strus projected out the best, but I am playing him a little bit less because I expect him to be pretty popular. He's 33.4% owned on DK at 4,900.
It's Bullock for me. It's just the minutes. It's so much playing time that it's hard for me to not project him better than the rest of the guys in the group.
And he's going underowned.
How many minutes did you project him for?
40 on the number.
Okay, I give him 44.
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah, because we have him for 39.5 at Awesemo. That's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff.
I mean, I'm just looking at what he did the rest of and maybe I'm a little too high on him if we're just looking for an average number because he's not averaging playing that many minutes because he had the game where he fouled out and the game where he got ejected, but the other games where he's competitive. I mean, those are the minutes he's getting. Super chat from RaceFan22, Depot or Strus, single entry GPP. I prefer Strus.
I prefer Max Strus.
And are we all caught up here? Yes, we are all caught up. So we're going to circle back and talk about the rest of the guards. But first, today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you guys have not signed up at PrizePicks yet, if you do it using our promo code Awesemo, you get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Get access to all the tools that Eric and I use to help build our NBA lineups, as well as the tools for basically every single other DFS sport out there. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, rest of the guard position now. And we haven't really talked that much about James Harden. I'm about even with the field with him on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think you just play a ton of them because he has that small forward eligibility for reasons unknown, but I kind of have to bring that up whenever it comes up because I think a lot of people would be confused when they see the small forward eligibility for James Harden. 9K on FanDuel, though, he's a very high priority play. DK, I'm more even with the field on him, but I am getting to more of Luka. I'm getting to more Booker, more of Adebayo, like I said before. What are you doing with the beard, James Harden?
Yeah, on FanDuel, it's impossible to get away from that. It just makes too much sense to play him at 9K over on that site. Now, DraftKings is a different discussion because two major things happen there for me. You have an 8K Bam Adebayo, you have an 8,200 Devin Booker. So those two guys alone. But then you also have Luka at 11.4. And it's just like the triple-double opportunity, the ability to play him as the main guard that you're kind of relying on. PJ Tucker will start. Max Strus will start. That's good to get confirmation of, just in case. Gabe Vincent as well. We knew that was coming as well. But I feel as though when I look at a guy like James Harden on DraftKings, he's 9,600. He's going to be popular over there. I think I'm just going to kind of go a little bit on the light side on DraftKings and on FanDuel, where it's just a little bit more price dictated. I think you just kind of play him over there. I'm having a tough time getting to 39.3% of him. You and I had talked about him before as well last slate, and it could not have possibly gone worse. He could have not have possibly looked as bad. He was still only one rebound away from a double-double, which might have inflated a little bit, only 16 points. Maybe he doesn't look that interested, but I do expect Maxey to play better as well. There's some paths where things don't necessarily work out for him at 9,600. But I find it impossible that Devin Booker at 82 and Bam Adebayo at 8K don't work out. That makes them clear-cut priorities for me. And then Luka, I just think is a more high upside option at this point in time, at this point of his career, or just in this given set of circumstances. So I think he's just kind of falling by the wayside fourth in that equation.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I think we're on the same page with that. Just looking through my guard exposure, the only other player that I have in my player pool that we haven't mentioned yet when it comes to guards is Campaign. And it has nothing to do with me projecting Campaign all that well. In fact, I have Campaign projected for right around 13 fantasy points on DraftKings. And it's just a lack of value options on the slate. And, you know, a dearth of high-end guys I want to pay up for relative to a 2-game slate. So I think there's a path where Campaign scores like 15 fantasy points and ends up being optimal if Luka has a big game, Booker, Adebayo, just because we're going to need those salary savings somewhere. So I got to a little bit of pain just for that reason. The only other guy I want to mention as far as value goes at the guard spot. Did you roster him at all? Or are there any other guards you're taking a flyer on?
Campaign's hard for me. I like Campaign a lot. I feel like I'm linked to him just because I've had some really good nights with Campaign, but Devin Booker and it just seems as though he's playing the backup to Chris Paul here. And if this game is going to be competitive, Chris Paul is going to play a lot of minutes. We also have to emphasize there's going to be a long break. There's no games on Thursday. I believe they don't play Friday. So it's not until Saturday or Sunday that you're going to see these teams play again. I think that helps a guy like Chris Paul at 8,700. Not that I want to be rostering him, not that I want to go nuts considering that tag is just insane. I obviously prefer James Harden over that. Chris Paul going to be vehemently against 8,700, trying to go too nuts there. But there is an opportunity for him to play some more minutes here, cut into that time the Campaign would be on the floor. He's been very, very limited. Now, no doubt about it, 3,400, there aren't many guys around that tag that are anywhat viable. So I'm okay getting to a little bit of him. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy on this season. So I'm okay with it, but not anything that I want to be going nuts with.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we seem to be in tune on this slate, which happens pretty often, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, hopefully on this slate for the better. Let's talk about the forwards. And we've talked about a lot of the pay up options on the slate. There's one guy we've not yet mentioned, and he's the one I'm getting to the least. And that is a Mr. Jimmy Butler, who a lot of people think I have some sort of vendetta against him. I really don't, though. I've played a whole bunch of Jimmy Butler this year. But just relative to the other options that we have to choose from today, I'm not getting to a lot of Butler. I don't feel great about it. FanDuel, I think it's easy to feel a little bit better about not playing ton because he's so expensive on FanDuel, over 10K. DK, I think his price tag is reasonable at the right around the 9K mark. But I just like all of the other options we could pay up for more. Are you on the same boat? Are you in the same boat as me when it comes to Butler?
I don't even think I've said his name. I mean, part of this is that you're going from the last series where obviously the knee injury for me came out of nowhere. I didn't really know what to think about that. We obviously didn't see him in the closeout game against Atlanta, game 5 at home. And then he gets right back to 30 minutes. Didn't really have to get pushed there. I just think matchup wise, Bam Adebayo against this interior of Philly, absent Joel Embiid, it's just a smash. I don't know how you don't play through Bam more in a spot like this. And I think it's also safe to say Eric Spoelstra is one of the coaches I trust the most to play the matchup game, to let players do what they do best and really isolate certain matchups of the other team. That's what we said last time. Bam Adebayo was unavoidable, like just jam all in type play. I think it's hard to not look at him as the exact same thing again today. An interior of DeAndre Jordan, Paul Reed, and Paul Millsap. It's just a joke. It's going to be free reign for Bam Adebayo. Hard for me to understand that Jimmy Butler wouldn't know that, and that Jimmy Butler wouldn't be okay to a certain extent with just playing through the best matchup on the floor. If he tries to go out and just assert himself and get his, it could be a different type situation. But I'm with you. I think Jimmy Butler just becomes a forgotten guy on this slate. Plus, I don't know if he plays over 36 minutes in a competitive game in this spot. If he's had knee soreness, if they've been showing real caution in like closeout game type scenarios, obviously they were at home for a game 5, felt pretty comfortable that they could win one without him. They really did that. But Bam Adebayo, just such a meaningful matchup for him on the interior here. Hard for me to get carried away with a little even Jimmy Butler. I'm really shorting him along with Chris Paul on this slate.
Yeah, Chris Paul being the other one. Although I think that's not going to surprise most people who are doing that. Or I think a lot of people at this point are going to do that in general because Chris Paul remains so expensive. And everybody knows now also that Devin Booker appears to be totally healthy, good to go. So I'm on the same page. I forgot that we didn't really talk about Chris Paul much there.
That's okay. Yeah, just hard to really land on him at 8,700. I will say, let me double check because, in terms of scheduling, I know that they were talking about how Memphis and Golden State aren't playing till Saturday. When do they play again here? Because this is something, campaign's 3,400. I don't think you should be looking at that as something that you should factor in too heavily. You should be landing on shares of him. But yeah, they don't play again till Sunday at 12:30 my time. So we're looking at a long break, Wednesday until Sunday, for everybody to recoup. That makes me
No. They play on Friday.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Let me double check. Oh, I must have had it for game 4 on Sunday. All right. There you go. So it's the Memphis game. It's just Memphis that they have the long layoff, Golden State and Memphis.
Yeah, I was going to say Golden State, in fairness, it's not just Memphis. It's not like Memphis gets some extra time off that Golden State does. I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean. Some more super chats to get caught up on. Tion Higgs, nice day yesterday. Thanks, fellas, for helping me get a nice $170 on $5 entered. That's a pretty nice return there, Tion Higgs. Love to see that. Another super chat here from Zhaolin Verse. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but it seems unlikely that I did. Fanduel GPP, would you start your build, if hand building, with plugging in your value or your studs and best start on Miami? Thanks, gents.
So when I'm hand building, I don't even think it's something that I naturally just like land on my favorite play or something of that nature. Sometimes I'll just start from the top down and kind of plug in some plays that I really, really like, seeing kind of how salary dictates, what I'm really landing on. For today, I think the first guy clear cut at the top of the board is Luka. He's got point guard, shooting guard eligibility. I click him in, and then I start piecing together some other pieces of value. And I really, if I'm going to hand build out stuff too, we have at Awesemo a really great lineup builder. It'll help, especially for NFL. When NFL comes around, it has the most utility of any time, but you can basically get your value score. You can get your contrarian score attached to it. So many great opportunities to see directly on the page. And I know that exists for every single sport that we have here. The lineup builder to kind of help you put together lineups, see how contrarian they look. If you're just building on the DraftKings or FanDuel page themselves, kind of cross-reference some of the stuff that we have to have some of the top values, have the boom bust tool up so you can get a guy like Victor Oladipo on DraftKings, 4,500. You're getting him optimal 25% of the time on this slate, yet 17.7% ownership. That's a guy that I might plug into my lineups and build out from there.
By the way, the results are in. 410 people voted. Does Eric sound like Glenn Rivers? 67% no, 33% yes. You know what that means, Eric? There's 150 people out there that think you do a bang-on impression of Glenn Rivers. That's not bad.
Jordan Klein, don't try to be nice to me now. Don't do it.
So the other part of Xiaolin versus question, I'm almost positive I've completely butchered Xiaolin's name here. Xiaolin. I'm pretty sure that would be Xiaolin.
Xiaolin,
Best dart on Miami. It's tough to say because what are we considering a dart? Like, if it's just a low, Oladipo isn't projected for that much ownership.
I mean, I had the low owned dart, 2 weeks ago with Gabe Vincent at 2% on back-to-back slates. That was fun. But
those don't really exist.
Those don't exist. No, but I'm saying it existed also at the beginning of the playoffs when people didn't know what those rotations were going to look like. Teams aren't exactly going to go back to the well and just blow up everything unless there's an injury. Like, obviously with Joel Embiid, that's creating a path where we have to contemplate some other scenarios. But for the most part, no team is saying, God, we got to the next round of the playoffs. Let's change everything. So now it's pretty cut and dry. People know Gabe Vincent. I mean, look at it. Gabe Vincent is 4,700 and garnering 20%. Yeah. Well, Glenn Rivers.
I have problems.
He's 19.9% on. 20% on Gabe Vincent at 4,700. He was free however many slates ago, and he was unowned. He was 2% on both of those. So that's how different it gets time to time. If you had to have a dart throw where it's like, hey, there's paths where it could work out for him. If something happens injury-wise to any of Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Gabe Vincent, or Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin at 3,300 would play a lot more minutes. He has a lot of utility on the floor.
It was a Fanduel question, by the way.
Oh, Fanduel? Okay.
Yeah. So, that was why I said Oladipo.
Yeah, then it's got to be Oladipo, 3,900. Just play him.
Yeah, so here's the issue also. There's only 2 players on the entire Heat roster that are projected for less than 25% ownership. It's Oladipo and Caleb Martin, and just kind of Oladipo by default then, I think, to answer that question. Are we caught up on Super Chats? I thought there might have been one more. Here it is. Yeah, for my filler arc, sometimes the questions are a little, or the chat gets a little slow to load when a lot of stuff comes in. My filler arc, last question, guys. Showdown on DK and thinking Booker at captain instead of Luka. What do you think? I don't think they'll let Luka get 45 again. I think ideally they would like to not have Luka score 45 again, but sometimes it's out of their control. I didn't look at the ownership for, actually, we may not have the ownership up for that yet. Let's see. Because we probably have the ownership up for the earlier slate.
Thanks. And yes, you pronounced it right. Xiaolin verse. Check that out. That's fantastic. Good job, Greg Ehrenberg.
Thank you. I do my best. Okay. So based on, we do have ownership for the late Showdown slate. Based on this, the answer is Booker for me. Luka's projected for 41% ownership in the captain spot, 17 for Booker. Go with Booker there.
Booker, I'm looking at it here.
For the captain in the late night showdown.
Oh yeah, I love Booker. I mean, I'm gonna like Booker a lot at 10K.
If the ownership was similar, then I would have said, all right, just ride with Luka. But the fact that Luka's 3x the ownership, I think Booker's the guy to go to there.
Yep. Agreed.
And all right, we are caught up on Super Chats. Let's get back to the forwards now. And who else are you prioritizing at the forward position? I know a lot of guys we've talked about are guards that are also at forward. So a lot of these players we have already covered at this point. James Harden, for instance, on FanDuel, he's going to be the highest priority forward, in my opinion. But who are the other guys we've not yet mentioned that you're getting into your lineups as a forward?
Yeah, so you made the case for Reggie Bullock. I don't know how we don't make the case for Dorian Finney-Smith at forward as well, playing a boatload of minutes alongside him. That same thing we talked about, spacing the floor, defensive purposes. That was not a great shooting exhibition by him. 2 for 6 from the floor. He's not a high usage guy, particularly in when you're playing alongside Luka ever. He's never going to be over a 15% usage guy. But when you're playing 40 minutes, you're going to run into some shot volume. You're going to run into some counting stats. You're going to run into a lot of things. And Dorian Finney-Smith, that was by far his worst fantasy performance since the playoffs really began. Oh, he had 23 against Utah in game 2. But for the most part, we're just going to see him play more than enough minutes. Him and Reggie Bullock, it's the identical case. You can't get away from playing them due to minutes. Maxi Kleber, I already talked about. I find it hard to really stomach now that he's popular. He was around 16, 17% last slate. Played a ton of him, worked out. Now he's going to be around 30%. I'm pretty sure we're going to see that number end up being higher just because of what he opens up by playing him at 4K. But then the guy I'm having a tough time getting away from is Jay Crowder. He's 4,800. And I just think that if you look at a competitive game for Phoenix and Dallas, what that looks like, we saw 30 and 28 minutes. And I said eventually he was going to make shots. Well, he only went 3 for 5 from 3 and had a ton of utility in that game. Cameron Johnson is playing some minutes. We saw Cameron Payne start to take on some minutes here as well. That kind of detracts from everybody in that starting unit that isn't named Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. But I feel like Jay Crowder is just going to have a lot of utility in this series, matching up against Reggie Bullock, matching up against Dorian Finney-Smith. I think both of them, not that they're huge offensive liabilities defensively for Jay Crowder. He's capable of handling a lot on the defensive end. But it seems as though Mikal Bridges is going to be getting the Luka Doncic assignment constantly. That completely makes sense to me. And Jay Crowder just feels like a guy that's going to play more than 28 minutes going forward.
I'm not sure he will, which is one thing that makes me a little hesitant with Crowder. I have him around 20% of my lineup, so it's what he's in my player pool, not like a big stand either way. But he just hasn't played that much in the playoffs. You go back to the last series, 28, 30, 22, 29 minutes. The playing time has not been there. He's only played over 30 minutes once in the entire playoffs. I don't really see a whole lot of reason for that to change. The main reason being is what you just mentioned, with Bridges being the primary guy on Luka and all the minutes they're giving him. If Bridges is going to continue to play mid-40s minutes, there just isn't that much playing time for other guys on the wing. He's taking up all of the minutes at one spot there, and that's what it's been the last few games, from 42, 44, and 47 minutes for Mikal Bridges. I think we're looking at 42 to 44 minutes again for him tonight, and that just kind of limits Crowder a little bit.
So one more devil's advocate point on why I think Jay Crowder could play more than that. He's been in a lot of foul trouble of recent in these playoffs. He played 34 minutes in game 3 against the Pelicans. Game 4, 5 fouls, didn't play the last 4 minutes of the third into 6 minutes of the fourth. So, I mean, maybe that's a general rotation, but still problematic. 5 fouls consecutively every single game for the last 5. Put himself in some spots where I think he's just had to come off the floor because he has a lot of value as a real life basketball player. Anybody who saw him play for the Heat knows that he was a very meaningful part of that run in the bubble. Then coming to Phoenix, he fit in perfectly with the landscape of this team alongside Mikal Bridges. Defensively, fits everything they want to do in the pick and roll. He can defend multiple positions. So Jay Crowder, I think he's going to probably be on the floor a lot more. Now, because of how involved he is defensively and what they're asking him to do, he's running into this foul trouble, but eventually there's going to be a game where that doesn't limit the upside of minutes.
Yep, I think that's a good point. Also, he has gotten into a lot of foul trouble. Still, I'm not projecting him to play over 30 minutes. So once again, I'm lower on him. Like I said, I have around 20%. Are you well north of that?
No, I have 30% of him.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's just a guy that I'm rostering, but then there's so many guys. I think the better question on 2-game slates sometimes is, who am I not playing? I'm not playing any George Niang. I'm not playing any Landry Shamet. I'm not playing any of these guys or trying to make them a thing. I know everybody really wants to find the one guy, the one point of differentiation. Sometimes there's just not a whole heck of a lot there. I do prefer Caleb Martin if you're trying to get different. I talked about it before, where I just think there's a different path where if something happens to somebody else, he could play some more minutes. He's a 0.8 fantasy point per minute producer. Danny Green, I'm really shorting as well. I doubt he's going to be as popular as we saw last time around, but even still, 20% is a pretty noticeable number. That's more than paying the rake if he doesn't pan out. So I'm going to be shorting him as well. And I'm kind of rotating around the rest of the guys that we've talked about that we like.
All right. So we've talked about how difficult it's going to be for the Suns to stop Luka Doncic here. Mikal Bridges might be the best perimeter defender in the league. Still wasn't able to slow down Luka. Got Jay Crowder in a foul trouble. That's why the force that is Luka Doncic cannot be stopped. These are promo code. If you are signing up for Awesemo Plus and using the promo code Luka, you get $7 for 7 days of pay $7 for 7 days of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That is 77% off our usual weekly price, Luka Doncic's number, not because Joey Corman's clever, by total coin. What are the odds of that?
Joey Corman, absolute dunce cap.
No, but I mean, what are the odds that he would set up this promo code that just randomly happens to be the same percentage off as what Luka Doncic's jersey number is?
Pure coincidence, because I can tell you it was not planned by the cheater himself, Joey Corman.
Extremely low.
Absolutely not. By the way, he still has to pay up on that bet.
I think you need to get closer to your mic, Jordan Klein.
Joey does still need to come on and admit that he cheats at the game, because that was part of the bet that we had there. But something you guys need to do is sign up using that promo code Luca, $7 for 7 days of Awesemo Plus Platinum, 77% off our weekly price that it typically is. And that'll get you access to all the tools we have here for NBA. And then also we've got stuff like F1 now, USFL, tennis. We got a whole variety of DFS sports covered over on the site using that promo code Luca. So let's get back talking about the rest of the slate. Are there any other forwards that are high priorities for you that we have not yet mentioned? One for me is going to be Dorian Finney-Smith, just based on playing time. All the same reasons that I like Reggie Bullock, same reasons to like Dorian Finney-Smith. He's going to play mid-40s minutes. What else gets into the mix for you at forward?
Yeah, that was the exact wording that I had for it. So
yeah,
I literally said that. You were listening to me, right? This isn't an Adam.
Yeah,
Scherer
it was just I
situation.
haven't mentioned me. He's one of my most rostered players. So
yeah, I have 55% of him. I think same thing we talked about with Bullock completely exists here. I'm playing less Bullock than I am Dorian Finney-Smith, but only marginally.
All right, let's catch up on our super chats now. First from Tyrone Person. Top 3 plays on DK. The players on DK I have the most exposure to are Booker, Doncic, and Adebayo. It's a little tricky to fit them in lineups, all 3 of them together. So I don't think I have many lineups with all 3, but my next most rostered players who are going into the mid-range are Dorian Finney-Smith and Mikal Bridges. How about for you, Eric? Top 3 most rostered players.
Booker, Adebayo, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Ooh, DFS over Luka. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, and then it becomes Luka, Maxi Kleber, the next 2.
The losers win again. Thoughts on the early showdown game? 5v1 Miami, small entry, single entry, small field. I didn't build showdown lineups for that one.
I have one lineup. Let me pull that up here because I think pricing matters a lot. When people talk about 5-1s in NFL and stuff, it becomes so inherent that like, yeah, if you have a certain game flow, if one team just murders another, you're going to run into 5-1s a lot more. I think an NBA showdown, people don't do a good enough job, especially if you're just hand building stuff together. They don't do a good enough job of realizing that pricing matters so much in terms of how you're going to land on some of these guys. Now, that being said, you have like a James Harden who's more expensive than a Jimmy Butler. That's inherently going to be something where if you wanted to land on some Butler in that kind of a scenario, you totally can. But for the most part, like it just becomes very, very clear cut for me that pricing is going to dictate where I land on some of these Sixers guys. I very rarely end up in like a 5-1 scenario unless I am looking at something that is just completely whack in terms of pricing. Plus, a lot of these guys, it's without Joel Embiid. And for a 2-game slate, obviously they've been priced up continuously. They've been priced up continuously for the last 2 days, for the last 2 slates. But for a showdown specifically, we have Tobias Harris. He's only 400 less than Bam. Tobias Harris is definitely going to be lower owned in that kind of a regard, but has some utility in that kind of a setting. DeAndre Jordan, I have no interest in playing him on the main slate, but it's one game where he's 4,200 and he's 600 less than Danny Green. He's 400 less than PJ Tucker. There's actually utility to going around and rostering him. So I look at the pricing a lot more in that kind of a fashion. Shake Milton's 3,200. I think that stands out as a guy I'd rather play a lot of. Caleb Martin's down at 2,800. These are the type of plays you have to consider more in this setting, just because they're cheap and give you access to the ceiling. So when you're rostering in that captain spot, somebody that you're hoping ends up being the highest score of the entire slate, because most of the time that's going to how it ends up working out as optimal. I'm going to get that path to work out by just getting somebody right down there below 5K.
Yeah, and let's see. I'm just making sure there's nobody that I left out talking about the forwards. As for Showdown, I didn't look at the pricing for that one, so I'm just going to say everything Eric said. I endorsed it the same way I'm endorsing EMAC for president in 2024.
Like
I don't know.
Dwayne Dedman is 1K. If you want to play Dwayne Dedman just to jam in everything at 1K, you can freaking do it. Have fun.
Dwayne Dedman had. I mean, we were doing the show when he put up that line from last game. Did you see what he finished with?
No, I didn't.
So Dwayne Dedman last game ended up playing, if I'm not mistaken, 5 minutes with no stats but 5 personal fouls. Let me see.
Beautiful.
Is that what it was? No, my bad. I'm sorry, Dwayne Dedman. You played 4 minutes with no stats other than 5 personal fouls. I'm sorry, my friend. I've underestimated you. One of the more insane stat lines I've ever seen.
I just built out 20 lineups in Showdown just because I wanted to be able to help. I have 2 Sixers in almost every single one. So 5-1 is going to be hard for me to run into.
It's in general, it's suboptimal to play 5-1 in Showdown, just because think of what has to happen in the game for it to be a spot where just all of the scoring is happening on one side. So I would think you more often than not, then this is just kind of a blanket rule. This isn't going to apply to every single scenario, but unless there's some kind of crazy value spot where it's like, hey, there's Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler are both out again for the Heat, it's probably not going to be the case. Why did you put this poll up, Jordan? What is this apropos of?
What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah. Of course. And of course, Jordan, if one person says something, Jordan thinks everybody says it. So he's got to.
Jordan Klein is very level-headed. He's also a jerk face, and I'm not talking to him, but it's fine. We have 5 minutes. Somebody wanted to talk about centers. It's the fastest discussion ever because we get here. Bam Adebayo, DeAndre Ayton. And then if you have the power forward eligibility of like a Kleba and he lands into some lineups, so be it. But even at 3,900, I have zero interest in going crazy or overboard. I have 5% DeAndre Jordan. He is, what is his current ownership? 13.7%. I mean, it's just one of those things where maybe he runs into some ridiculous stat line in 18 minutes or 16 minutes or whatever the heck he's going to get. But for the most part, you're just playing tons of Bam. He's my highest owned player on DK. He's my highest owned player on Fanduel. Ayton is a distant second.
Yeah, I mean, it's so heavily skewed my exposure at center to Bam Adebayo. I think he's the best option at the position by a wide margin over on DK. And then same goes over for on FanDuel, Bam Adebayo. And then if you already have Bam Adebayo, say a power forward over on FanDuel, you need a center to play, it's Ayton. And then everybody else is, so there's tiers. It's Bam number one, and then I agree with you, Ayton after him, and then it's just everybody else. Like you have a couple lineups here and there with Maxi Kleber, DeAndre Jordan, whoever else it might be, fine. But I'm not prioritizing anybody beyond Adebayo and Ayton. Are there any guys that you're taking shots on that we haven't talked about yet at center?
No, Powell's still dead to me. I hope everybody took that to heart. Luka has a problem with him on the floor right now. It just is what it is. They are not in sync with it. He clogs up the middle of the floor. And Ayton, how do you really combat it? Well, you make him come out and play on the perimeter, and it opens up the lane. And Dwight Powell's just kind of a problem for this series. He was a problem for the last series, even at times against Gobert, even though you would think naturally, oh, I want to have somebody up against Gobert. Wrong. Kleba does pretty well. It's not like Dwight Powell is so much better defensively than what Kleba is. Kleba, I think, is going to continue to see the majority share of those minutes at center. They're going to try to do some small ball lineup stuff to force McGee and Ayton to come out and guard guys on the perimeter. That's going to open up lanes for the likes of Brunson, for the likes of Luka. That is going to be what they plan to do. So just give me almost no Dwight Powell. I have 2%.
Question,
I have one
lineup. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Question in our premium Discord channel from Jets World. Harris or Ayton last man in on DK in a high dollar single entry GPP. That is Ayton for me.
Ayton for me.
Yeah, Ayton over Harris. Let's go through and just wrap up. Let me make sure we didn't get any super chats in right here. Then we could address Jordan's poll after this. But first, let's go through just our most rostered players position by position. And I think, did you say that you're playing just on DK or FanDuel? And
I'm playing both, but I'm primarily all my volumes on DK.
Okay, so I have a build for FanDuel. I only entered lineups on DK, but let's go through. Do you want to do it then? You could give off who your most roster players are in the FanDuel lineups you played, and I'll do DK.
Sure. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so starting at the point guard position, should be no surprise, Devin Booker and Luka Doncic over on DK. What do you have on FanDuel?
Luka Doncic, and then Tyrese Maxey is sub 7K, and I'm taking a little bit of a stand. I got different over there because I have zero Maxey over on DraftKings, so I got to some of him. And Spencer Dinwiddie is really cheap, 5,100.
Yeah, he's definitely a more viable play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Not that he's unplayable on DK, but higher priority over on FanDuel. As for the shooting guard position for me, it's Devin Booker, number one. And then it's a bunch of guys kind of close together. Harden, Bullock, Strus are the next tier of guys for me behind Devin Booker. For you over on FanDuel, who are the most rostered shooting guards?
Harden, Oladipo, Strus, and Luka. And Luka is like right there. They're all in 60% plus.
Small forward, Dorian Finney-Smith and Mikal Bridges. What do you have for small forward on FanDuel?
Harden, because he falls into small forward. Dorian Finney-Smith, 60%. Tobias Harris as well is starting to fall into lineups there. Have no exposure to him over on DK. 7,800, 9 position players, more utility on FanDuel.
All right. Then at power forward, Dorian Finney-Smith. And I don't have anybody else that I have a healthy amount of exposure to at the position. It's just a lot of guys that I'm like in the 20 to 10% range on. Like Kleber, Tucker, Paul Reed, who I have ownership to in the teens. But there's nobody that I'm really prioritizing at the power forward position other than Dorian Finney-Smith. What did you do with power forward on FanDuel?
Yeah, Bam, Dorian Finney-Smith, Harris.
And then center, pretty clear cut. Bam out of bio, DeAndre Ayton.
Bam, Ayton, and then Paul Reed. What a time to be alive. He's like 10%. So there's that.
Yeah, I think we're probably on the same page there. I'm not that much different in the field on Paul Reed. I have no clue what to expect from his minutes. I think last slate, if you play that out a bunch of times and you give Paul Reed 13 minutes, he probably fails 19 out of 20 times. It's hard for me to think that there's that many slates where he plays 13 minutes and scores 25 fantasy points.
Right there with you. And the nice thing that DK did this time around is that they priced him up. They priced up Paul Reed on DraftKings and FanDuel so that I don't have to think about it and I can just naturally fade him.
All right. We have gotten to lock now, but we're not going anywhere. Eric and I are going to be here actually for the next 24 minutes, not the next 30 minutes, because PGA Live Before Lock is after us. We're going to have to kick it over to Ben Rasa and Jason Roslin. Do us a favor, though. I haven't asked for likes and subs yet, which I just realized just kind of occurred to me. So if you guys are leaving, you shouldn't. You should stick around. But if you are, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Eric and I are about to sweat the game and walk through some of PrizePicks. If you guys have not signed up at PrizePicks yet, if you use the promo code Awesemo, you get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So I'm going to pull up PrizePicks. There's only one game left to talk about, but we'll see if there's any value we could find. Did you build PrizePicks cards today by chance?
Oh, are you kidding me? Is it a day ending in Y? I sure did.
Yes, sir. It is Wednesday, I believe. Let me check. Let me check the spelling on that bad boy. W-E. This is a tricky one because it's got the D in the end.
I know. Wednesday.
E.
Foul.
S.
Wednesday.
I'm almost at the end.
Foul.
A-Y. Yep. So it appears that Eric has played on PrizePicks based on the research I did just there. Did you skew your cards more towards the first game or the second game?
I skewed mine towards the second game / Ben Simmons going to undergo back surgery. Good to know now.
Wait, this is absurd. What were they? He doesn't have a spine. What are they going to operate on?
Is that from 23 hours of video games? Is that what I saw? 23 consecutive hours of video games that he played during the playoffs.
Is that
Did you see that article? Yeah.
No.
I think maybe it was on Side Action that I saw that. Might have been.
I'd have to look. I'll look it up.
I heard that he played 23 hours consecutive of video games. There was something on Twitter. Maybe it was just me late night perusing and I misread something, but I swear to God, I saw that headline.
Let's see. Ben Simmons video games. I'm doing a Google of it.
Daniel Vogelbach, my Lord and Savior. Thank you.
Did he homer?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, nice. I had a bet on him.
Gigantic stand.
There we go. All right. So Dan Vogelbach, who, because now I'm starting to gear up for Greg's Hot Dong Picks, which is going to be the new baseball betting video that I'm doing. We got the graphic underway. But I'm starting to look at some of the data we have in Odd Chopper. That was one of my bets today. I had a Dan Vogelbach plus 650 to homer. So I'm happy about that. All right. So Ben Simmons video games. Let's see what comes up.
Did you know about this, Jordan? Weird. It'd be really weird if I just made that up.
Yeah, that would be very.
To be a very random thing to make up. Swear to God. I was right. I thought I saw it on Side Action. It was like late night perusing. And I clicked on it and I like kind of read it, but I was also like going to sleep.
Do you know what game he played? Because I found an article now.
No, you did. You found one.
Good. All right, Jordan. We don't need to spoil the game here. I was gonna have Eric guess.
Yeah, you're ruining all our fun, Jordan Klein.
I knew it wasn't gonna be anything basketball related because he doesn't like basketball. But yeah, so it ended up being Call of Duty.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
You knew for sure it wasn't going to be basketball related. So let's head on over to PrizePicks now. The first game is locked. Is it tipped off already? It's locked on PrizePicks.
Yeah, it's locked now.
Yeah, it's locked and it's tipped off.
So let's talk the second one. I'm more skewed towards the second one anyway. There are a couple of spots that you have to be looking at. And I think that the first one right out of the get-go, over 24.5 points for Devin Booker. I am very bullish on Devin Booker. Sure, Dallas played at the slowest pace in the league during the regular season. They're going to try to grind it out. But let me just tell you ahead of time, everybody, if Devin Booker's healthy and going to be playing 36 plus minutes, 24.5 is such an egregiously low line for him. I find it tough not to like that every single game from now until the end of the series. And if it doesn't work out today, I still think if it's going to be around 24.5, you just continue to play the over of it here. Chris Paul is a distributor in this offense during the regular season. Devin Booker, just such a meaningful part of everything that Phoenix did to have success this season, because he's just able to take over an entire offense just single-handedly. He's so easy to be able to have out on the floor with anybody. He can play with the ball in his hand. He can play off the ball from Chris Paul. Devin Booker, 24.5 is just such a low number. Do you like that one too?
Devin Booker, 24.5. I assume I like the over there. Let me check. Mm-hmm. Yes, that over. Give me the over on Devin Booker all day, all night. Devin Booker over. I dig it.
Yeah, we have him for 26.6 over at OddsShopper. I have him for 28.5 points. So I just saw that one. That was my first play in every card. And something I like to do on PrizePicks now, instead of just playing $100 and having it go to a couple of these other ones, if it's going to be around 65% expected win percentage, which is what a number of these other props are going to be over on OddsShopper for today, I like to just play like $25 allotments and rotate around the two rather than just playing 3, 4, 5 of them together. And then just know that if I don't hit all of them, that sometimes you don't get completely paid out. Now, if you play 5 and you do just the regular 5 play card, you still 2x your money when you get 4 or 5. So if you have 5 that really stand out in NBA, MLB, and you put them together, there's paths where that still works out. And 3 out of 5 still get you 0.4x back your money. So I've just been really experimenting. I've found a lot of success rotating around just 2 plays at a time. That's as close as you're going to get to making an actual wager at a sports book about the one. But I like that 24.5 for Devin Booker so much. It's kind of the catalyst for everything I'm doing in baseball, other sports. I'm parlaying that with everything.
Have you seen the ownership on Sir Paul Reed?
I don't want to know. Is he going to be 50%?
About.
No way. I have 0 on DK.
So, I mean, I have ownership in the teens to Paul Reed, but I'm once again underweight. That is a massive number. That is way more than what the ownership was projected. So here are part 2. All right,
I get to play it. Let's go. Part Deux. DEUX. Let's do it.
Part 2. All right, so this is going to be an interesting one. We get to have the same sweat. It's the same slate as it was the other day. It's all the same things that are going down. Except I don't have the bet on the Sixers Heat first quarter this game because they were larger favorites this time. But here's where we're at so far.
Greg.
We are 2 minutes into the game. It is 4-4. So there we go. By the way, if this game actually stays somewhat competitive in the first quarter, DeAndre Jordan is going to play bigger minutes this time around.
Yep.
That aside, here's where we're at so far. 2 minutes into the game, James Harden has 2 points and a block. Jimmy Butler, 2 points and an assist. Bam Adebayo has a bucket. Oh, there we go. 6-4.
DeAndre Jordan alley-oop. 8-4.
Oh my God. Is this going to be, is this just going to be DeAndre Jordan plays 30 minutes and scores 30 fantasy points?
That's my DJ. Go DJ.
How funny would that be? What is the ownership on? All right, let me pull this up.
I played like 5% of him, so I don't have 0.
It would be so funny if DeAndre Jordan just has a massive game. Imagine the takes on Twitter and Glenn Rivers post-game press conference. If DeAndre Jordan goes out and puts up like 15 and 15.
I told all you fuckers out.
Yeah, it's like that.
He is going to take victory laps at the post-game press conference.
He will be unbearable. He will be unbearable if DeAndre Jordan puts up like 15 and 10.
DeAndre Jordan, 2 points, 2 boards.
Prepare thyself, friends. Prepare. Garrett Whitlock. This guy is just a monster. Are you watching this guy pitch against the Angels? He is just mowing down everybody. This Garrett Whitlock character for Boston is just incredible.
Because that that game was on the slate. Let's see. So he's
on the main slate.
Yeah. Let's see. What was my I mean, I don't actually know what my baseball exposure is because there's kind of ran the lineups as we're starting the show. So I don't know exactly what I have in terms of exposure.
I love that about baseball. It's like sometimes, what am I cheering for today? I have 18% Garrett Whitlock. So that's definitely somebody I'm cheering for at 6.8% owned. Matt Chapman bomb 3.5% in that dollar. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check afterwards in terms of what I have as exposure. Anyway, I'm looking through PrizePicks right now. There's one prop that I love. Can you guess what it is based on some of the players I've talked about today? It's a points prop.
Over 8.5 for Reggie Bullock.
I have him project for nearly 14 points.
Well, let's play him with Devin Booker, shall we?
The amount of minutes he's playing, once again, the amount of minutes that he's played in the postseason, he's regularly playing mid-40s minutes. 8.5 is a very, very low total for Reggie Bullock. He is averaging, not a ton of points in the playoffs, but the shot volume is there. The minutes are there. He has hit the over on that number. So he hasn't done it in the last 2 games, which probably skews this a little bit. He's gone 2 games in a row under 8.5 points. He hit the over in every single other playoff game.
Well, let's take the over of Devin Booker, the over of Reggie Bullock. 1, 2, chat. We need your help because I'm going to post a 3-player parlay. I'm going to put $100 out there. I'm going to give you a portion of the winnings. I'm going to have a drawing for somebody. I'm going to post it on Twitter again. You got to be following Odd Shopper on Twitter. You got to follow me. You got to follow Greg Ehrenberg. And you know what? You have to follow Jordan D. Klein on Twitter too, because he's been so nice to me this entire show that we really need it. You know what? Just go follow him right now at Jordan D. Klein. You're going to have to do it anyway for this giveaway. So there you go. Go do that.
Yeah. Follow Jordan on Twitter because he offers Jordan, I want you to come on camera and pitch your Twitter account. Tell everybody why they need to follow you on Twitter. What value do you offer?
I add zero value to anything.
All right, there we go. A consummate salesman, one of the best in one of the best there is out there. Go follow Jordan on Twitter because we like him.
I'm so surprised he's never done any Awesemo ad reads before now. Man, after that performance.
Yeah. No ad. Well, we had Jordan do ad reads that one time. It went well. Remember, people loved it.
Oh,
people loved it.
Oh yeah, Jordan, you read so good.
Also,
yeah.
Here's the
Oh hell yeah, bro. Shit.
This is why we can't. Cool. Have you realized the congruence here? This is the reason we can't set up Jordan on dates because he sells himself the same way he sells his Twitter account.
It's so true. He is so self-deprecating, but it's not self-deprecating because that's like joking aroundish. He's like deprecating. He's just deprecating to himself.
Jordan, everybody likes you. Tell me let's get him back on here. Tell us one good thing about your Twitter account.
I just love the Reggie Bullock prop of 8.5 points. Just the over on that. It's fantastic.
Wasn't listening to us at all. Boo this man.
Jordan, your Twitter account. Tell one positive about your Twitter account.
It has Duke pictures from time to time.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much it.
All right, there we go. All right, everybody follow Jordan. His Twitter account's about to explode. He's about to pick up so many followers. If nothing else, you know why this is going to work? I think he's come off as mysterious, and now people are going to want to know what the @Jordan D. Klein Twitter account is about because they're like, oh my God, what is he posting about? Let me go read some of Jordan's recent tweets. I'm sure there's.
I tweeted about Jason Tatum had a Boba T shoes on the other day. Pretty sweet. You guys wouldn't have seen that probably. He had these shoes that had like a Boba T thing on them.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty much it.
All right, so Jason Tatum knows what's good. This was Jordan's tweet from yesterday. Look at this. Here we've got one. Jordan got 12 likes on this one. Idolizing celebrities and caring about their relationships is the dumbest shit. There we go. A little bit of insight. There were a little bit of Jordan. I didn't know he was a philosopher.
Oh no, but then we had his work daddy. His work daddy love.
You deleted that.
I did. I did do that.
Oh my God. Wait. Listen, people think Jordan isn't interesting here. He admits to being a thief on Twitter. Forgot to ring up one of the items I got at the grocery store at self-checkout, and I feel terrible about it.
What do you think the line is? What do you think the line is for getting into heaven or going to hell? Like, where do you think that line is? Because is stealing something at a grocery store just pushing you further that direction, Jordan Klein? Are you now going to have eternal damnation because you stole something at a grocery store?
I'll tell you what I hope it is. I hope the line is not washing your hands after taking the shit.
I don't think that's the worst problem we might have to worry about.
It was like a $3 thing though, so I felt bad about it, and I didn't know if I should have gone back in and like went in and like paid for it. But I mean, it was $3.
Yes. You go back in and pay for it.
I realized when I got to my car, and I was like, you know what, I don't know.
You were too lazy. You were so lazy that you stole.
It wasn't. I mean, it's I did steal. Okay, I admitted to it on. Okay, never mind. I'm done.
All right, it's okay. I'm gonna back up Jordan here. So when we were in like kind of the middle of COVID, when it was hot and heavy, and my brother was exposed to a friend who had COVID, he asked me to go to CVS and pick him up a rapid test. Mm-hmm. So I went into the CVS to get a rapid test for him. While I was there, I was like, oh, there's some toiletries and stuff that I just remembered that I don't have. I might as well get these while I'm here. So I get one of the hand carts, I load it up with different shampoo and stuff. Then I go to the front desk and I say, hey, do you guys have any of the rapid tests? They said, sorry, we're out. We don't. I was like, oh, no. So I just walked out of the store, not thinking that I still had all this other stuff, because I went there just to get the rapid test. And so it just totally just slipped my mind. So not only did I walk out with all of the stuff I told him, I went home with the entire shopping cart also. I just took the cart with me, the hand cart. And I didn't realize until I got home that I still had the cart with me. So there we go. I'm like Jordan, I'm also a thief.
I'm surrounded by thieves, liars, and cheats. No wonder I get so worked up on these shows. No wonder the people in chat wonder if I'm okay. No wonder that I am so unhappy from day to day.
The other thing too is I've intentionally taken a shopping cart too, because when I lived in New York City, and I didn't have a car when I lived in New York City, because what do you need a car for? There was a Costco that was about 2 miles from me. So what I did was one time I went into Costco and I just took one of the shopping carts and I brought it home with me with all the groceries in it. Because how else am I going to get this stuff home from Costco? That's reasonable, right?
Yeah, damn it. Dylan Bundy just left a meatball out there for Cedric Mullins, 2-0.
Jordan Klein. Right field. By the way, Jordan Klein calling for statute limitations. Jordan, it's been 2 days.
It's been 2 days, homie. You're still
how long?
The worst person.
How long does by the way, people bringing something up here. This is true.
Thieves. Sorry, not thieves. I was worked up, okay? I was worked up. You would be too if you were in my shoes around some of the world's worst people.
Did you play that new Sea of Thieves game?
The what?
Not again. I'm not doing it again. I refuse.
Listen, I don't care. Thug life right here. God. All right. Whatever it happens. Jordan and I are badasses. Sometimes, sometimes we do thug shit because it's cool.
It's fun to do bad things with your friends.
It's fun to do. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. That wasn't the, what did he
smoke them cigarettes?
What did he,
he stole his grandma's car. He stole his grandma's car and went driving around and like picked up stuff and did whatever else. But he's like, it was fun. He goes, the cop is like, your grandma's going to have to pay for all of those cars that got hit now. He goes, so it's like,
is that what he said though? Did he say it's fun to do bad things? I thought that might have been something else he said.
He said, I like to do hood rat shit with my friends or something like that.
Is that what?
Oh, kids, they're funny.
Well, listen, what's the difference? That's what Jordan and I do too.
Ride.
Jordan, I've stolen, not quite a car, but some toothpaste, a bottle of shampoo, and a hand cart.
Can we get a beat going for Greg as he's just like really playing into this thug life? I need something going from
whatever. I'm just too cool for this. Whatever.
Yeah, just whatever. Just chill.
Whatever. Just dude, bro, chill. Whatever.
Top says too. Check out the boom bus too. Check out the top stacks too. To the boom bus.
Jordan, come on and give us a dude, bro, chill.
Yeah. Dude, bro, chill.
Dude, bro, chill.
There we go.
Dude,
there we go.
Roadshow.
So we've got 5 minutes left here. Eric, is there anything left that we could find on PrizePicks to give to the people? Some bets are not coming off, by the way. These are staying on for the rest of the program.
I had a feeling that there's not going to be an opportunity for things to get, actually normal there. I will say, how many fantasy points do you have Spencer Dinwiddie for today?
Fantasy points for Spencer Dinwiddie. And this is for Fanduel. So
for
let's
Fanduel
see.
Purposes. Yes, sir.
Spencer Dinwiddie over
He's
on
another
Fanduel.
large
I have him at
scam.
23.5.
Well, he's at 20 on PrizePicks. So
Over.
I think that is a smash over as well. Not to the extent of Devin Booker points. Again, that is just, I am firmly in play on that. You're firmly in play for Reggie Bullock, but Spencer Dinwiddie, 20 fantasy score, lots of paths for him to have that pay off for him. It just is an egregiously low mark. We look at FanDuel scoring as the comp, looking over there. So I think Spencer Dinwiddie, 23 fantasy points here at Awesemo.com. That's a pretty decent one to get it in good with.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I said that I have him right there projected for 23.5. So I dig that. Best Ball Moderate in our YouTube chat is asking us DFS over fantasy points. Let's see. Where's Dorian Finney-Smith? Dorian Finney-Smith. Ooh, I do like the over. DFS 24 fantasy points. Give me the over on that number as well.
Oh, baby.
All right. So
24. So 24, we're going to do this. This is going to be the 50. I'm going to put 50 in on this. So we're going to put the thing on my Twitter giveaway. You guys know the drill by now. I'm going to put a screenshot up. You follow at OddShopper. You follow at Ehrenberg DFS. You follow at Jordan D. Klein. And you follow at Eric Lindquist. And if you do those things, you will be eligible to win half of whatever I win by putting this PrizePicks together. But we've got the over 24.5 points for Devin Booker, the over of 8.5 for Reggie Bullock, and the over of 24 fantasy points for Dorian Finney-Smith, which is great because I've played a lot of MLB unders today. So I'm just fine with that. Plus Dodgers and Giants starting pitchers under 0.5. Gonsolin, Alex Wood, left on left. I feel pretty good that 0.5 under first inning runs allowed, but I'm not going to put that in our parlay.
Let's see. Baseball, because I haven't looked at, for baseball here, first innings, that's the only thing that's up there. Here's an under I'm going to like. Patrick Corbin, his over-under is 4 strikeouts.
Oh, no.
Give me the under on that number.
I'm smashing that. I'm putting that in the play. That in the play.
Under 4 strikeouts for Patrick Corbin.
That's great. I'm going to add that.
Field.
I like that more. Yep.
Yeah.
No velocity, going to Coors where the ball doesn't spin as much, and overall sucks. Yes, I'm with you, Patrick Corbin. All right. Smashed it. There we go. That is the parlay for the day. I'm going to post it here in 3 minutes when we get off the show.
All right. I dig it. Don't forget, guys, you have to follow Jordan on Twitter. You have to follow Eric on Twitter, like and retweet them. Get a chance to win some free money. That is certainly something to take advantage of. Also, don't forget that if you're signing up at PrizePicks, use the promo code Awesemo, get up to $100 for free, which also is free money. Let's sweat the game right now and see what's going on. We'll get some updates here before we head out and kick it over to the PGA guys. Once again, guys, don't go anywhere after this. Like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check out PGA Live Before Lock with Ben Rasa and Jason Roslin. As for the game right now, 22-22 in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Decent stats for DeAndre Jordan, 4 points and 2 boards. He got in 7 minutes in the first quarter.
Useful.
How much do you think, given that information, how much do you think he ends up playing?
18 minutes. That's what I had him at. He's only going to play like 3 minutes, 4 minutes to close out. I mean, it all depends on Reed keeping his hands to himself. Or, as I said before, you said Paul Millsap would be in the rotation. I thought it was kind of a result of Paul Reed picking up 2 quickies and then them not wanting to put DeAndre Jordan out there for 12 minutes in the second quarter. But that's just my guess. You could see Paul Millsap just removed from this rotation entirely if Reed keeps himself out of foul trouble from now until like the 9-minute mark, 8-minute mark of the next quarter.
I mean, the other thing too is Jordan might just play decently. Because I mean, he played 7 minutes. He had 4 points, 2 boards. They outscored the Heat when he was on the court. Mm-hmm. Paul Reed's come in. He's played 3 minutes now with 2 points and a rebound. So a much more moderate point per minute production for Paul Reed as opposed to the 3 points per minute that he was putting up last game. So we've also got James Harden, 4 points, 2 assists, a block, and a rebound. And then on Heat side of the game, we've got 6 points, 2 assists, a block, and a steal for Jimmy Buckets. Bam Adebayo. It kind of looks like a slow start with 5 points and assists, but he checked out a little bit earlier than the other guys. Something else to monitor. Max Strus, 3 points, 2 rebounds, and assists, but 2 personal fouls. in the first quarter. So we could be seeing extended playing time for Tyler Hero. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us. Once again, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great night. Good luck. And hopefully Eric and I are on the right side of Paul Reed, but I think that's at odds with what everybody in YouTube chat is rooting for. So hopefully somebody wins tonight. Good luck.